just great.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Winthrop Town Council meeting for August 6th, 2024. It's 6:30 PM. We're in the Harvey Hearing Room. And roll call, please.
Counsel Tassinari.
Here.
Counsel Munson.
Here.
Counsel Costigan.
Here.
Counsel DeMarco. Counsel Aiello.
Here.
Counsel Swope. Here. Counsel DeRoss.
Here.
Vice President Belcher. Here. President Lettieri.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. By returning Olympian.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Minutes have been circulated for July 16th, 2024 meeting. Any discussion on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Councilor Munson, second by Councilor
Tassinari.
Tassinari. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Also, minutes have been circulated from executive session from February 21st, 2023. Any discussion? Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Vice President Belcher, second by Councilor Swope. Any discussion on these? Councilor Tassinari.
Mr. President, having not been at that executive session, do the new councils, should they still vote on these
No,
minutes?
they should recuse themselves. They should
They should
abstain.
abstain, thank you.
No further discussion. Take a roll call vote, please.
Counsel Tassinari.
Abstain.
Counsel Munson.
Yes.
Counsel Costigan.
Yes.
Counsel DeMarco. Counsel Aiello.
Yes.
Counsel Swope.
Was there? No. Yes.
Counsel DeRoss.
Yes.
Vice President Belcher.
Yeah.
President Lettieri.
Yes. Pass.
221.
All right, general information and recommendations, we have a couple of presentations tonight. First, I'm going to ask Phil Ronan to step up, and he is going to talk about a proclamation which would make Winthrop a Purple Heart community. Mr. Ronan, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dexterity on the fingers.
I can pass two down.
Yeah,
if
we
you
can
want.
pass them down.
I have it.
So, why I'm here tonight is the town of Winthrop, due to the heroism of people who served our town, whether they were killed in action, we have 95 killed in action from World War I through the Gulf War, and I can't, too many numerous to count Purple Hearts. This town qualifies to be a Purple Heart community. And the only thing that's required is a proclamation from this body and a sign at the entrance of town, at both egresses of both entrances. I spoke briefly with Director Calla. He would be the person that would decide, you know, by regulation where they would be placed. And I already have Matt Honan and his staff on board to do a sign, and it would come out of my budget, none of your money per se. And, you know, basically, I'm asking you to, as a body tonight, to make a proclamation, and tomorrow happens to be recognized across the country as Purple Heart Day. So, I think the timing would be pretty good. I have a Vietnam veteran, an old friend of mine. He was a Green Beret. He was with Special Forces. He's probably the most decorated living veteran in the town, very humble. He said he would be present. He's gonna have to have his grandson actually pull the cloth off the sign because he's getting a little bit older. And I kind of forced his hand. He wanted no part of it because he's very, very humble. And he said to me, you don't have another living Purple Heart in this town? I said, I don't know. And he kind of gave me a shot and said, all right, I'll do it. So that's where we're at tonight. So I'm hoping that you folks, as a body, would adopt a proclamation, and all I need is a signed proclamation, and I will send it to the state office. I'll send it via picture with your signatures, and then we're on board. There's 130 other towns out of the 351 that already are, and I don't wanna be 351, I wanna be 131. So, but that's up to you.
Thank you, Phil, for bringing this to us, and thank you for all you do for our veterans. I would like to read this proclamation. Whereas the people of Winthrop, Mass. have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all our citizens of our community who have selflessly served in the armed forces, that has been vital in maintaining the freedom and the way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily service of being wounded by the hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration that was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart with the word merit sewn upon it on August 7th, 1782, in Newburgh, New York, by General George Washington. Then reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22nd, 1932, by General Douglas MacArthur. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart. And whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day. And now therefore be it proclaimed, we, the Winthrop Town Council, hereby proclaim Winthrop, Massachusetts, a Purple Heart community, honoring the service and sacrifice of those from our community who were awarded the Purple Heart while serving in our nation's wars. And also be it proclaimed, the town of Winthrop, Massachusetts will recognize August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day, and urge our citizens and organizations to display the American flag, as well as other public expressions of recognition for our Purple Heart recipients. I would like to ask the council for unanimous recommendation of this proclamation. I would like to ask the council for a roll call, please.
Counsel Tassinari?
Yes.
Counsel Munson?
Absolutely.
Counsel Costigan?
Yes.
Counsel DeMarco? Counsel Aiello?
Yes.
Counsel Swope?
Yes.
Counsel DeRoss?
Yes.
Vice President Belcher?
Yes.
President Lettieri?
Yes, proclamation so made. Thank you, Phil Ronan, and thank you to all our residents. Now we have a presentation from Mothers Out Front. They're going to talk to us about their thoughts on transitioning off gas to clean heat. And with us tonight, we have Christina Kinsley, and I thank you for coming here. I thank other participants of Mothers Out Front for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you. We appreciate having the time to speak with you. And we also have, besides our members of Mothers Out Front Winthrop, Ann Ray from Mothers Out Front Massachusetts, here to assist with any tough questions. And we ask that you hold any questions to the end of the presentation in the interest of time. You could go to the next slide, thank you. We're focusing on gas tonight because it is costing us too much. So-called natural gas is methane, which is responsible for 1/3 of climate disruption so far. It is 86 times more damaging to our climate than carbon dioxide in the first 20 years. We also focus on methane because it's close to home, in our homes and piped under our streets, where it causes damage to our health as well as dangerous explosions. We'll discuss how it costs the utility customers, you and me, billions of dollars to maintain the system that delivers this toxic and dangerous product to us. The future of clean heat is provided by all electric homes that are safe and affordable for all. The Commonwealth's climate planning agencies and all climate advocates agree that electrification is the solution for our buildings and will enable the retirement of the dangerous gas distribution system. We need an efficient, rapid, and fair transition off gas while ensuring the remaining system is as safe and non-polluting as possible. Go to the next slide, please. The gas distribution system is made up of old pipes, some dating back to the Civil War, running under our streets and into our homes. Unsurprisingly, these gas pipes leak a lot. Every gas leak releases methane into the atmosphere. 10 years ago, Massachusetts created the Gas System Enhancement Plan, or GSEP, to allow gas companies to repair and replace leaky pipes, and then pass on the cost to customers via a surcharge on their gas bills. However, as thousands of leaks have allegedly been eliminated, thousands of new leaks are breaking open, and this scary situation has been likened to the game whack-a-mole. So despite the gas companies spending at least $500 million a year on pipe replacement and some repair, we have nearly the same number of leaks. We need to transition off gas to reach climate mandates and to stop this massive waste of money. Bringing this closer to home, at the end of 2022, utility companies reported 20 open leaks and 35 repaired leaks in Winthrop. These leaks were responsible for 17 metric tons of methane emissions, equivalent to nearly $24,000 of leaked gas at the residential rate, which we are all paying for. The largest two leaks in Winthrop noted in 2022 are flagged in blue on this map on Lincoln Street and Bowdoin Street. And you can look at an updated map by going to the website gaspipes.org and selecting Winthrop. Next slide. The reason the gas companies are replacing so many pipes is that the GSEP program gives utilities more money to dig up and replace pipes than it does for making repairs to existing pipes, which makes higher profits for the gas companies. Yet the evidence shows that repairing pipes with advanced leak repair techniques is effective and much less expensive than pipe replacement. So instead of replacing leaking gas pipelines, we should be repairing pipelines with these advanced techniques whenever possible. Doing so also avoids complete street excavation. Just think of the disruption we had recently with street closures on Revere Street. Next slide. Without the future of clean heat, there's no tactical strategy for the transition away from gas, and this will cause many problems. Currently, customers who can afford to install heat pumps randomly depart from the gas system. This is a good thing since every home that converts off fossil fuels is helping to reduce climate damaging emissions, and many local governments and community groups are helping people to take advantage of federal and state subsidies for heat pumps and other electric appliances. But even with these rebates, the switch is a big upfront investment by individuals. Most gas customers still can't afford to cover all the expenses of switching off gas, so they have no choice but to keep using gas. This will leave the pipe system the same size, with the same operating and maintenance cost, and with the same leaks. But these remaining customers will have higher and higher monthly charges as the fixed costs are spread amongst fewer and fewer households. So those who can't afford to leave gas can't afford to stay on gas. Next slide. This utility scale problem can't be solved at the individual level. We need a strategic plan. In the future of clean heat legislation, when an area is identified for gas pipeline replacement due to leak-prone pipes, gas companies or their competitors must plan for zonal electrification instead, neighborhood by neighborhood, whenever feasible. A thermal energy company can make the investment and arrange for a cluster of neighborhoods, a zone, to get weatherization, electric service upgrades, electric appliances, and heat pumps. The conversion doesn't depend on individual homeowners acting alone, and the leak-prone pipes are retired. Using a shared infrastructure for many buildings creates a broad customer base and the possibility of utility-scale financing. Zonal electrification can be done with air source heat pumps or ground source heat pumps. Heat pumps use electricity to move heat from one place to another, operating like reversible air conditioners. In the winter, they transfer heat from the outside, the ground, or the air, to the inside. And in the summer, they transfer heat from the inside to the outside, which cools the house. Heat pumps are 2 to 3 times more efficient than gas furnaces and traditional air conditioners, so they save energy and money. Air source heat pumps are cheaper to install, and they're more efficient than any fossil fuel system. Ground source heat pumps have a higher upfront cost to install, but are at least 44% more efficient than air source heat pumps. Network geothermal is a system of interconnected underwater pipes and ground source heat pumps. The wells are in the streets, and an underground network of pipes fills with water connecting to ground source heat pumps in the buildings. Because different buildings on the system use heating and cooling at different times, heat returned to the system from one building, such as a supermarket, can be used by other buildings on the system. This means the overall energy use is lower than the sum of individual building needs. Next slide. If utilities implement this neighborhood by neighborhood solution, it will provide a new business model for the companies and their workers. Gas utilities have the access to capital, expertise, and highly skilled and trained workforce needed to build the sprawling and interconnected underground networks required. But we want to note the new energy systems that could be delivered by competing businesses or entities if the new legislation allows that. Next slide. Tonight we've stressed that we can't afford to continue with gas. We must electrify our buildings. The Department of Public Utilities, DPU, order requires utilities to file a climate compliance plan every 5 years, starting in 2025, which will explain how they're reducing their emissions in line with state mandates, and that the legislature must take steps to mandate a clean heat future. We would like this council to request a networked geothermal pilot in Winthrop. This request can be made directly to National Grid. We're also happy to provide a longer version of this presentation to the Citizens Advisory Committee on Climate to provide more information. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the council? The presentation? Any questions? Councilor DeRosa.
Very quickly, first of all, thank you to the Mothers Out Front group for all the work you've done. So that the council knows and everyone here knows, Karina Capobasso and I attended a session that was done in Framingham by National Grid and the city of Framingham. They are one of 2 cities in Massachusetts currently in the middle of a pilot for what Christine just described at a high level. The other one is, so that's Eversource with Framingham. National Grid is doing one in Lowell. It should be roughly a year or so before they will be able to tell us the results that they're measuring. Most importantly, to tell us if technically it's effective. There are 6 states across the country conducting these pilots right now. So I think the ask that Mothers Out Front has of us is to join in a pilot so that we can accelerate finding out whether it's feasible and works. And I asked the question during the session if there's a way that they can help us understand with a town unique like Winthrop, in terms of our geography, topography, et cetera, if it's feasible here, and really the only way to know that is through a pilot. So like Karina said, now that we have the Climate Commission, we can take a little bit deeper dive with the Climate Commission. But until we solve the decarbonization issue, we'll continue to deal with the climate impacts we've been dealing with flooding, et cetera, here. And I highly recommend that we consider this request.
Thank you. Councilor Muntz.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It was very informative, but I am a big fan of geothermal. I have a friend who's an engineer who actually went ahead and got geothermal for his home, and he can't say enough good things about it. His bill is gone, and it's been years. So I'm a big fan of it. I would look forward to turning greener. I would just need to know a lot more about the logistics and the feasibility of it, the financing of it, et cetera, et cetera. And it just seems interesting, and would like to know more. So maybe the advisory committee could get more information to us.
Absolutely.
Great.
Councilor Swope.
I went to a meeting, the MMA has conferences like that, so I spent an hour and a half or so, they're talking a lot about geothermal, so you might want to get those slides. I have them, but,
Okay.
and it was a very positive,
That's great.
possibility.
Okay.
And I do know people that did that with their home, and it's great, but I don't know if we have the topography for it, so it's gonna be an issue.
Thank you. Anybody else on the council? Mary Alice.
Hi, Mary Alice Sharkey, Precinct 1. If I may, Jim, I'm not sure if I'm out of order, but you stop me if I am.
I certainly will.
All right. This past week, we, as Mothers Out Front, sent a letter to the transfer as a result of the indecision that our legislatures made this past week. And it says, "Dear editor, the House and Senate has done it again. They have ignored the need for climate change legislation, thus allowing the oil, gas, and energy suppliers to run rampant within our Massachusetts borders. They were not interested in the needs of their electorate, but rather the needs of their own special interest. The House and Senate came away with nothing at the end of their legislative session. How can these elected officials continue to operate with closed eyes when the needs of their people are in their hands? This isn't a child's game. We are dealing with the future of our children, our country, and the world. They moved forward without passing any of the climate bills put forward to them and used the excuse that they can still discuss it in the fall. These bills would then be needed to be passed unanimously. No negotiations. We need to actively pursue our rights as citizens to let our politicians know that they are there because we elected them there. We don't need to hear from House Speaker Ron Mariano when asked about the late marathon sessions and the failure of its actions when he responded, "It's just the nature of our business that we are in." Since when is the lives of people a business? I am asking that the citizens of Winthrop and all of Massachusetts contact your legislative representatives and ask them to stop doing business with the lives of their constituents and become thoughtful representatives of all of us. Mothers Out Front.
Anyone else have anything to say? Yes.
I wasn't sure whether this.
That's
is
fine,
the right
Karina.
time
This is a
to
public
carry
forum,
on. Karina Campabasso, Precinct 3. I just wanted to say, when John and I visited the network geothermal project out in Framingham, it's the organization HEAT is the one that is sort of behind that initiative. And someone from HEAT told me that they are right now in discussions with Deer Island about potentially doing a network geothermal project on Deer Island, and that there was an idea that possibly the excess heat from Deer Island could be used in a networked geothermal project in Winthrop. So it's very early stages, but when we hear more about that possibility, we will definitely report back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I-
Council Testino.
one question did just occur to me. Is there more information available on how like the plan would be to further secure the electric supply in terms, well, actually, electric delivery? Because we're all coming off poles in town. So that's subject to things like high winds, blizzards, hurricanes. People who remember 2011, Hurricane Sandy knocked out electricity for like months in New Jersey and parts of New York. How would we survive a blizzard if our electricity gets knocked out for a month?
Speaking out of turn on this, I don't know exactly, but it wouldn't be on poles, it would be underneath the streets.
But all of that would rely on a pump that's driven by electricity, that's run by electricity. So we'd have to bring all the lines that run on the poles underground.
Underground, right.
Yes.
I know it sounds monumental, and cost-wise, but it's also important. It's just like the long run. We
Yeah.
do things here because it gets it done fast and a little less cheap. But what we're trying to do is with the geothermal and other things is, yes, the expense is now, but it won't be down there. It will gradually extend down, and it will cost less in general. And like Christine said, for the lower income and poor people, some of this is just not doable, and we recognize that. And that's why we need our state and local government to support our people who need that extra oomph to be able to perform in that way. But it is difficult. None of this, we're talking about a total change of the way that we are using to heat and cool and do our homes. Yes, it is. But it's better to do it now and not wait for 10 or 15 years from now when things will be twice the cost or even 3 times the cost.
So,
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
May I say something? Well, we
Yeah,
had,
name and precinct, please.
hi, I'm Carol
Hi.
Walker, I'm from Precinct 5.
Thank you.
We had hoped to make this presentation before the legislation, but we now see they didn't act. But the thing is that if cities and towns, some of them have stepped forward and made resolutions, or some of them have asked, if a city and town were to ask the legislature and say, we are in favor of this resolution, we want this for our town, that makes a big influence on the legislature and helps us a great deal. Say, you know, we like this presentation, we like this future clean heat, it makes a lot of sense to us. It's, because, we don't want our people, what part do we like? It's kind of like obvious, do we wanna keep throwing all that money on pipelines that are obsolete, that are wasting the money on, they can't, all those leaks and making us sick and killing our trees, you can't do that. And it's a waste of billions of dollars, and gas keeps going up and up and up. The bills will go way down when people get the right, the clean electricity. Their bills go way down. As your friend told me, he's got like nothing for his bills when he's on the geothermal.
Thank you. Yes, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm Ann Wright, I'm from the Massachusetts Mothers Out Front campaign team. And I think it's a good question. I'm not an electric engineer, I don't think any of us are. And that could be.
Before you speak, I'm sorry, I'm just going to get, nobody has a problem with somebody outside of Winthrop speaking. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay, thank you. Just continue.
Okay, so, I think it would be worth looking into, but my understanding is it would be some reduced electrical input because you put glycol or some kind of substance
Refrigerant.
in the ground. Do you remember that picture in the
Yep.
slide of the network geothermal? The glycol comes up and carries either the heat or the cooling up to each house or each building. And that does require some electricity, but it also reduces the number of electrical lines that have to go into each house. So I think it would be a give and take from what I learned. I toured the Framingham pilot as well. But look into it. I mean, it's a good question. Also, the legislation that they didn't pass last week, some of that would have been for shoring up the electrical system and the electrical grid, which of course we aren't going to need to develop more. We know that.
Thank you. Max, Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do love the idea of a pilot, if we could find a neighborhood with residents would agree to that. And if we could, I remember, you know, there was one slide there that talked about utility financing over time. If we could wrap up the financing of moving off of delivery lines off of the poles and putting those underground as part of that whole project, I think that would go a long way in at least securing our electric delivery so that we wouldn't have that issue. But
I don't want to get too far stream here, and this is the perfect reason why we started the climate resiliency.
Exactly.
So, and I'm sure that there'll be an upcoming meeting with this as the only topic of discussion on it.
Yes.
So I
Just
do
very
thank
quickly, Council President, there will be the Climate Advisory, Citizens Advisory Commission on Climate will be having their first public meeting in August. Tony and Larissa have been kind enough to add a section for that commission on the town website. Right now, I think it's a skeleton. I think it lists the members of that commission and not a whole lot else, but it will be populated with a lot of good information soon, including about this. And the point is well taken, Councilor Tassinari, about thinking through costs, thinking through upfront costs. I know Karina and I made the point in Framingham that as a town, like many towns, we don't have a lot of money to invest upfront. So the entire endeavor from pilot to adoption will require funding from the utilities, from the state, et cetera, to make this happen. So stay tuned. In the interim, I would encourage councilors, both Councilor Costigan and I are part of the Climate Commission. If you have specific questions, feel free to funnel those to us or funnel them directly to the co-chairs of the Climate Commission, who are Anna Leary and Norm Hyatt. So it would be great, and please attend the first upcoming public session of the Climate Commission. Don't know the date right off the top of my head, but it is in August. It is coming this month.
August
12th. Thank you, August 12th.
Thank you, and thank you again, Mothers Out Front, for the presentation. Public hearing, we have none. Public comment, round number one. Any public comment? Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Carol. Where should I stand over this?
That's fine.
I'm gonna stand over here.
Okay.
My name is Carol Pacella. I am in precinct 4, and I live in Seal Harbor 3 condominium complex. And I've come this evening to present to you some of my serious concerns, which I have expressed to the town council, to the planning board, and to other public officials through 2 written letters detailing very distinctly my opposition to 3A and the reasons for it. Tonight, I won't go through all of that because the time is limited, but I do want to focus on 2 particular issues. One is the designated zones, and the other is the citizens' initiative petition. Regarding the designated zones, I feel there's not been sufficient exposure and information about those zones and the impact within those zones, and the impact on the residents who live within those zones. 2 zones have been proposed. They have not yet been accepted, but if the council moves forward, they will be. One is Governor's Park, which are condominiums, and the other is called Seal Harbor. And I have a problem with how this has been presented at the planning board and also by the consultant Halverson. He says Seal Harbor as if we're all the same. Seal Harbor has distinct properties. It's a condominium complex 1, condominium 3, and Fort Heath Apartments. We've never referred to Fort Heath as Seal Harbor, but they're lumping it under Seal Harbor. Fort Heath is distinct. It's one owner, and it has many, many rental units with tenants. The impact of 3A on these 2 different structures is different. It should be fleshed out, and we should be aware as the public of what's happening. The first issue has to do with new development. Last planning board, Halverson proposed that we change the zoning to reduce the square footage required to put more parcels on these designated zones. That's gonna, again, meet the goal of more housing. It's also gonna meet the goal of increased occupancy. These goals are questionable, given Winthrop. It also fails to address, it talks about paper compliance, and if we put these two zones on the chopping block, so to speak, that we won't have to build many more. The reality is that's only half the equation. The other half is the reconfiguration of what exists already. That's probably a greater concern than any new development. Under the law, it allows for a lifting of all local zoning restrictions. The state will come in, take over those properties, and we will be under state control. The state can change, modify, or adjust in any way they want, and we have no say, us that live within those zones. Reconfiguring current occupancy, it means that there is no limit on the number or size of the bedrooms, and there's no limit on the number of occupants that can be there. This is losing our autonomy and control in Winthrop and handing it over to the state. And by forcing designated zones, it is making people who live in those zones sacrificial lambs. We are the ones that are gonna be subjected to those changes and not the rest of Winthrop. Winthrop is gonna suffer from this, but we specifically will suffer. How will we suffer? Because
Thank
we'll
you.
have no
Because
con-
your time is up.
Can I please?
We've already given you 30 seconds extra. I'm sorry.
Can anyone
You could go,
create
you
that
could continue
time and
after.
mail it to me?
There'll be plenty more. Thank you.
And email it to me?
I'm sorry? No, it's, you have a second public comment period later in the meeting. We're limiting public comment to 3 minutes. It's already been 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Next public comment. Yes, Betty.
So mine's a different public comment.
That's fine.
But I'm Betty Peabody, and I live in precinct 4 also. But I'm here to talk about Hannaford Park, which, if you don't know where it is, it's at the, where Highland and the Hunt meet, and it's a pretty remote park. And I've lived in that neighborhood my whole life, basically. I've seen lots of things go on up there. My suggestion to keep it, I'm an advocate for safe and clean parks. And I would like to suggest that cameras be put there because of the remoteness of parts of the park. There are many things that happen there at night especially, and anything that happens at night up there is not good. I've witnessed many things. I've called the police many times. I've called DPW many times, you know, to fix graffiti, to pick up mattresses, to, you know, clean up all kinds of messes. This morning I was up there, I found broken tequila bottles in the parking lot and up above where people can sit. I also found 3 big bags of trash that someone dumped there. I took pictures. I didn't call anybody. You know, that's just such a gorgeous place. It's a place where people meditate, where they read, where they ride their bikes, where they walk. It's just so beautiful. The views are magnificent. And when these kinds of things happen, my heart breaks, you know, for people who want to enjoy it. So I think a very easy thing to do would be to put cameras there. I don't know why it hasn't been done before. And then people can watch, the police can watch what happens. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Betty.
And I hope that you take it seriously, because it really has been abused over the years. And it still is beautiful. So thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Lee Foley, precinct 6. I just wanted to read a letter that I wrote to the town council and town manager Anthony Marino and town clerk Denise Quist. This was sent Thursday, June 6th. Dear town council members and others, I am writing with a couple of questions/comments regarding Monday's town council meeting numbered below. First, I am asking that
town council members to please refrain from declaring their stance on the 3A issue until leadership has given a clear outline of the process, including the expected outcome from each stage of the process and how and when residents will be able to contribute. Neither should leadership be attending, never mind hosting, events that are obviously siding with one group. Town leadership should be taking very transparent steps to ensure engagement remains civil and reasonable. Secondly, I am asking the chairman and town council president to clamp down on inflammatory behavior while in the meeting. Why was the sign allowed to be waved whenever anyone spoke? Why was a small group allowed to storm up? I know it's difficult to stop people from coming and going during the meeting, but this was petty and unnecessary. Moreover, reading the list of signatories to the petition should have been stopped immediately. First, did all those people give their consent? Secondly, the town council president could have asked for the list to be handed to him and made a note for the minutes of the number of signatories. This resulted in unnecessarily unruly public meeting. I look forward to hearing the next steps in this process, and I hope you will seriously consider establishing a citizens advisory council, as Celeste Chu had suggested. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I wrote this letter, and someone who received the letter, someone who's sitting up here tonight, sent the letter to the No to 3A group, and they shared it on their Facebook page, someone named Vasily, and which to me showed that you're doubling down on taking sides on the issue. I have never had a letter from any of the counselors up here from another constituent that they received from another constituent addressed to them. So why was my letter, which I stand by even more now that this happened, why was my letter shared with this group? So it reinforces to me that yes, counselors are engaging in the process in a biased manner and not representing the town as a whole and making sure that we come to an agreement about 3A, which is a law, in a civil manner. And I guess I just wanted to let people in town know that if they send something to the town council and the counselor receiving the message or the recipient does not agree with them, that their letter may be sent to the person or group that they're in opposition to. So I really hope that the town will be more transparent about what the process is, and this letter was not received by a FOA request. Somebody took a screenshot and sent it to a private individual in the group. So I would like more transparency about how documents or letters are being shared. If I wanted this letter to go to the group, I would have sent it to them, believe me. So I just want to get up here, say my name, say it to me. I'm proud of what I wrote, and I hope that the town council, as our representatives, you're representing me as well, will try to rise above some of what's going on right now here, because I really feel like the process has become no longer constructive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Jack.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jack Dow, Precinct 1. I'll change the subject a little bit to the, there's going to be a presentation, I guess, for the motion written by Joe Aiello and to MassDOT Secretary Monica Tibbetts. It's a tough time to be bringing demands to the state, I believe. And there's some things, I'm not going to go far with this, but there's some things that I've mentioned as far as the seawall is concerned, about the transportation system in this town. We don't have a transportation system if you can't use the road. I've been talking about this seawall needing repair. It was built in 1935. It had a projected lifespan between 35 and 50 years, so it's way over the lifespan. You can look up seawall failures, if you like, and find out what happens with seawall failures, infrastructure work, which I've been talking about for months. All the infrastructure work under the road leading out of Winthrop to Revere, to Winthrop Ave and Revere, is only 15 to 20 feet away from the seawall. If there's a breach or a washout, we're in a lot of trouble. That's why I brought this to everybody's attention. I don't want to see something like that happen. The transportation system, and Mr. Aiello wants to get another ferry. I've been saying that for years. I agree with that proposition. A lot of people don't because it's very costly. If the cost has to come back to us, I wouldn't be a proponent of another Valkyrie or something that just used for Winthrop, and then going to Quincy and then to Boston. So if it just went from Winthrop to Boston, it'd be a very good use for people that are washed out of road system are people that generally just want to use it 7 days a week. I appreciate that sentiment. That's it for now. I have something else to say, but I'll wait for the second comment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to, Mike Kinlan, Precinct 2. Just wanted to broadly speak in support of the proposed letter to the MBTA. I got here late. Has the text of that been read? It has already, or was it presented? I don't know if everybody's familiar with it, but the gist is that we are underserved by transit, and I don't think there's anybody in this room on any side of any issue who would deny that we are underserved by transit. And I think there are a number of people here on all sides of the issue who would agree that we will be much better served if the state and the MBTA specifically were paying closer attention to our needs. And I think that, as Mr. Dowd said, it's a tough time to be asking of the state right now. Puts us in a weird position. This feels to me like it was the card that we had, right? The fact that we are underserved, and some would say tragically so. And that, you know, where the conversation in terms of the Communities Act has sort of veered off into these very abstract things of, you know, well, what if Steel Harbor burns down, and you know, we build 6-bedroom apartments and migrants live there. It's where are we? What are we doing? It seems like one of the biggest hooks that we have is that the state doesn't seem to have been holding up the bargain in terms of taking such a close community with access to the city and helping us grow our transit system. You know, if anything, it's just been cut. So I appreciate the letter. I think the wording was pretty dead on across the board, and I truly hope that it gets a response. Second item, I was inquiring, and I'm not sure if I'm able to get an answer tonight, as to why our application for the MVP grant, specifically for, I believe, Morton Street area, was denied. This is my neighborhood. We are hit very, very hard by the flooding. We desperately need flood mitigation measures. I've spoken up here before about this. My next door neighbor has sandbags in her driveway year-round now. The last time her basement flooded so bad, her burner caught fire and almost blew her house up. It's bad. Some houses, I'm told, I'm not entirely sure, but I've heard some houses further down have taken total losses in flooding before. I mean, this is as real as it gets. I don't know if the state offered a legitimate reason the money's dried up. We don't have any money. It seems like very convenient timing to run out of money. Call me a cynic, but I believe that they've been picking up on some of the signals that we've been giving them, and maybe rightly so. I think that it is not to our credit that we would preemptively signal a no on MBTA 3A. And I want to say something about the process of democracy in the council in general, is that there's a lot of people in this room who are always here. I mean, and there are people who are very involved in this process, who are very involved with councilors via email personally and whatnot. And it just so happens that, you know, most of the people in the town aren't those people. And when you talk to people about what's going on in the town, they have voted for the people in this room to be the experts, to live and breathe this stuff day in and day out until they are, you know, can speak eloquently about any aspect of the process, and therefore vote.
Just wrap this up,
Yeah,
please. I'm sorry.
vote intelligently on it. And I want to say that I think this needs to go to the point where the council is voting on it, the way we elected the council to do. You should be a resident experts. We elect you because the average person can't spend hours learning this stuff.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Next. Yes, Julia, and then.
Hi, thanks. I'll be respectful of the time limit here. Julia Wellers, Precinct 3. I had a few things I'm going to say. You guys teed me up a little bit about the MassDOT letter. First, I want to thank Mothers Out Front for that great presentation, inspiring, totally stand with you all as Mother Out Front as well. I know this hasn't been heard yet, but I want to express my support for the override ask, $4.95 million. Yes, Winthrop's kids are worth it. Thank you, Superintendent, for leading on that. I know there's a great committee that's been put together to lead on that. Really looking forward to that. I hope you'll be supportive. And I'll echo what Mike said about the MassDOT MBTA letter. We are historically underserved, and we stand to be even less served if the proposed changes under bus network redesign come to fruition. That's not until phase 3 is unfunded. It may never happen, but the sentiment is there that Winthrop's generally underappreciated, right, by our transit agency. I mean, Councilor Aiello knows that more than anybody from his role with the MBTA Control Board for years, and that's real. I want to commend Senator Edwards and Rep. Turkle for securing the T and operating our ferry service, but the new service, it sucks. We deserve better. It clearly prioritizes Quincy over Winthrop, which the letter makes very clear. We are a waterlogged community. We need water transit that works. We also need bus service that works and that people can rely on with legible signs and shelters. Thank you so much for including that in the letter. When I first moved here, I fought tooth and nail just to get signs, right, so that people knew where the bus stop was. Now let's treat bus riders with dignity, give them some shelters. We may need to make some ADA upgrades to make that happen, because you can't just put a bus shelter anywhere. You need to have room for it. I hope that you will push the MBTA to provide some funding to make those upgrades. Winthrop cannot thrive without reliable, convenient transit, and this letter amplifies that and sends a message that you recognize that as well, and we want Mass DOT and MBTA to recognize that also. So I hope you'll sign that letter tonight. I hope you'll also join me and be very excited about today's passage of the Affordable Homes Act. This is a big deal, $5.1 billion approved to fund housing across the state, right? We talk a lot about housing right now, and that's a good thing because it's a big issue, and this is a big deal. This is an unprecedented amount of money going into building and refurbishing housing, first-time home buyers, legalizing accessory dwelling units, giving money to cities and towns for water and sewer. Billions of dollars is a big deal. Very excited, and one of the good things that's come out of these last few months, where we mostly spend our time talking about zoning and 3A, which is not as big of a deal in my opinion as this Affordable Homes Act, is that we're all thinking about it. We're thinking about housing, we're thinking about zoning, we're thinking and talking about affordability. So let's do something about it. Let's pass inclusionary zoning. 10-20% requirement. We have no requirements for affordability right now. 3A is not an affordability law. It was never meant to. It removes one barrier to building housing that's more affordable, multifamily. Is it by default affordable? No, we have to make it that way. The state's just passing the baton to municipalities. It's a flawed law, but it's the law we have. If we don't follow it, we're gonna lose some serious money, including this infrastructure money, to pay for water and sewer, and including the MVP grant that we already lost. Like, this is serious, guys. So I hope we will stick with the process. Do the vote. See what happens with Milton. Let's not get into legal trouble. And let's work towards affordable housing in this town for real. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. John?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a fast comment in support of Councilor Aiello's wonderful letter regarding the Winthrop ferry. I totally supportive of that letter, although it could be a little bit more aggressive in my opinion, a little bit softer on the edges. So if you have an opportunity to sharpen it a little bit, please go ahead and do so. Aside from that, but well done. And look, I was one of the first passengers on the first Winthrop ferry many years ago, and I've seen the Winthrop ferry wax and wane over the years, and it's extraordinarily weak right now, not serving the town nearly as well as it should be. And I think you've hit all the right points, Councilor. One other point though too is your request that the point-surely elimination of the bus service be restored. Totally agree with you on that as well. It would be absolutely a disgrace if the point-surely bus service were eliminated or downgraded. So again, that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Hi, Kathleen Puccio, 49 Baltimore Ave. I just want to commend the council and, Councilor Aiello for drafting it. I thought that letter to the MBTA and MassDOT was great. Again, I think just, I thought it was pretty strong, but I think it's just wonderful that Winthrop, that you're all saying, hey, you deserve more. Again, the service, I also, love that, hopefully we can get some of the covered the covered bus stops. My kids can't stand that I do this, but I do it often. In the pouring rain, I did it the other day, I saw someone waiting at a bus stop. And it was a woman, so I felt safe, I pulled over and said, "Can I give you a ride somewhere?" Because the poor woman was getting soaked. So I just think that's really fabulous, so I commend that letter 100%. The question I have, and again, this isn't to the merits of that letter, is just the concern with 3A in the sense of, and I'm sure you guys have probably asked Attorney Civiletta this already, or asked Secretary Augustus this already to give you some information, but I think it would be prudent for the town, because the MBTA 3A guidelines have changed so many times in the way they're worded, the definition of ferry in the guidelines of MBTA 3A is a year-long service, which we don't currently have. So my concern, and again, hopefully it's not a concern, is that any changes like that could change our designation. So again, just being cautious, which is prudent because of the guidelines being changed so many times, could we maybe ask Secretary Augustus or someone, and this wouldn't preempt you sending the letter, but before services are changed, just to make sure we're covered, that wouldn't change our category. So I just wanted, that was just a point that I want to make. And to that point, the reason why I'm making it is Mr. Halverson sent a response to Mr. Boyce, who's the chair of our planning board, because Mr. Boyce asked, pretty much, people have concerns over if the guidelines change, where does that leave Winthrop? And the direct response from Mr. Halverson, our KG consultant, is this, and again, you all have this is, freedom of information. So I know I'm time constrained. So Mr. Boyce said, what is the process moving forward? If the regs to 3A are revised by the state, are these changes foisted upon towns and forced to update zoning, similar to building code updates? Or do we have a town process to review and adopt proposed revisions? There is a fear that what we vote on now will change without warning, and I'd like to speak confidently to the state's proposed process for future amendments after adoption. I really appreciate Mr. Boyce asking that. And I'm sure I'm gonna get the same grace that was given to others with regard to the longer time frame. Mr. Halverson's response is, the response from the HLC, which is Mrs. Augustus, is there are no current plans by this administration to change the regs of 3A. Therefore, they don't have a formalized process outlined for this scenario. I can't speak on behalf of the HLC of the state, so that's the best I can offer. That's concerning. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana.
Diana Vance, Precinct 2. First of all, I just want to say I'm so proud of our community for everything that we have done to represent our town and the majority of the people here, our populace, over 1.6 square miles, and then apologies in the absence of fair and unbiased representation. I want to take part of my 3 minutes to apologize to Dr. Fasella for having your voice taken away. Just a minute there is the very reason I will move to point 1 in my comment here, which is we asked for a townwide vote, townwide forum. We didn't get that, so we did that. We had 70 people in the basement of St. Michael's Church. We had WCAT there. We had the transcript there. And we had a conversation, and it wasn't limited by no conversation back and forth, and it wasn't limited by 3 minutes. It was an honest conversation about something that impacts us all, and we did that. We urged this town council to invite our department heads to be involved in the conversation. That never happened. So we, the Winthrop Says No to 3A committee, went and heard from the firefighters union about their concerns, all the safety considerations that they could come up with and that may or may not be in front of them with respect to higher density dwellings. We did that, and we collected that, and we collected the information from the finance committee, and we shared it with the public. We asked the town council to join the Rockport suit. It's a citizen suit. It class action suit that protects us all. Right now, they're up to 24 towns and cities, and our, population, our citizens went and figured out who would be interested. We informed the public of what that suit was all about, and we understood who wanted to join, and we submitted all the paperwork, and we put all of the documentation together to represent our town in that suit, which is a very important suit. We came to the town council, I came to the town council president with a full-on outline as to why Winthrop deserved an exemption from this law. We are truly unique, and we in fact have a very unique safe harbor to 40B. We searched for 2 months for that Dick Dimes and Dave Hubbard study. 2 months, nobody had it, and we got it. We got it, and we came to this body, and we shared the reasons that was so important. And instead of filing an exemption, it was handed over to Secretary of Justice, after which we filed the exemption. We urged this town council to write an amicus brief on behalf of Milton, which we knew would affect us all. It comes up in October, and instead, we wrote it. The Justice Council decided not to do it. We are so excited to be involved in the vote that we have so very, very much earned. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Anybody? Yes.
Yeah, Bill Schmidt, Precinct 5. I just wanted to speak in favor of the override for the school. My only comment, I wish it was for a higher amount, because I'm concerned, again, we're talking about just a level service budget for the next 3 years, and I'm concerned we're not giving our students what they really need, but if that's what the council is prepared to vote on, I think that's obviously good, but I think we should consider thinking years ahead to do more.
Thank you. Yes.
Shannon Poulos?
Shannon?
Hey there, Shannon Poulos, Precinct 3. Just to be clear, I'm speaking as an individual, but I also happen to be a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee on Finance, which is a subset of the Finance Commission. The other group that makes up the Finance Commission is the Finance Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Town Council, made up of Town Council members John DeRoss, Hannah Belcher, and Max Tassinari. On June 4th of this year, a presentation was made on behalf of the Finance Commission in relation to the fiscal 25 budget. And one of the more important recommendations made was in relation to long-term strategic planning the town should undertake. In light of the continuing conversations around 3A, the old middle school, the firehouse, and a proposed debt exclusion, the upcoming vote tonight to put a Prop 2.5 override on the ballot in November to support the school's operating budget, and conversations that definitely need to be had about the solid waste fund and potential increase in trash fees, I think there is absolutely no more critical time and time-sensitive time to address a long-term strategic plan for the town. I understand that people in the town council have their own priorities and agendas, but we need to do a better job at the town council level to help citizens of Winthrop understand what's in front of them. Not just on one issue or another, but a true collective vision grounded in factual data, revenue, population changes, and costs, and where this ultimately puts us from a net perspective. People have run their campaigns trumpeting their budget experience. It's time to use it. I hope the town council members will be open and transparent about what their priorities and agendas are. Our firefighters, our teachers, our children, and most importantly, the taxpayers of Winthrop deserve that, and they need clarity and vision. People in Winthrop and all over our country being squeezed by rising costs. People need answers. What do these initiatives mean to them over the coming years, each quarter and year in their taxes? I'm personally supportive of the firehouse debt exclusion. I'm supportive of the Prop 2.5 override. I'm staunchly against 3A and increasing our population without an understanding of the net impact on our town. But we have to acknowledge we need a clear roadmap and vision, or the debt exclusion and Prop 2.5 will likely fail. This might sound overly idealistic, but I ask, please be honest, and most importantly, please work together on a clear vision and roadmap. If you agree or disagree with the initiative, say it. We need transparency now more than ever. That was
Caitlin Burrows.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I promise this was not planned, but I do want to echo Shannon's comments. I sent a letter earlier, or an email earlier today. I'm from precinct 6 to a town councilor. I'm actually inquiring about whether the town council had been talking about strategic plans and where we were on that, if there had been any conversation on that, and where that might be going. So it just seems like it was in the water that people were thinking about strategic plans today. But in general, I just want to comment that I am fully in support of the override. I'm encouraging the town council to vote to put it on the ballot. I'm encouraging the residents of Winthrop to vote for it and vote for our children. Looking long term, I'm encouraging the town council to have a clear plan for how we're going to move forward from this level of service override to thinking about how we're going to fund Winthrop schools to adequate levels to get the students the services and the classes and the activities that they frankly deserve to have as part of the school. It never should have gone on for 15 years that we didn't pass an override. I think Superintendent Howard has done an amazing job rubbing two nickels together to make it quarter. But we shouldn't be putting our superintendents in that position. We shouldn't be putting our schools in this position. And I hope moving forward, we have a clear vision for how we're going to be building year over year to make sure that our students are getting adequate schooling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Town Council President, if I may, if there's nobody else.
Yes.
Just a public comment, just a brief comment.
Superintendent.
Superintendent Lisa Howard, also precinct.
Two.
Precinct 2, as my father told me. And
That's why I came to the meeting.
Parents of 4 kids, one still in the school system, 2 grandchildren, 2.5 grandchildren, who will be in the school system, hopefully after I retire. So just a brief statement. As everybody knows, for a level service budget this year, we presented a budget for $37,634,288. Probably the most transparent budget I've ever created in the 7 years of creating budgets. We received, after lots of discussion back and forth, $36,141,803. That is what they call a below level service budget. I'm very much aware of the town's budget as well, and grateful for that amount of money that we received. That was $1,492,000 below what we needed to open the doors July 1st of this year. We, and I say we because I did this with the administration, as well as my business office and many others, made $1.49 million worth of cuts. That is actually putting us behind the 8 ball moving into FY26 at the jump, $1.4 million. We average about a 6.5% increase in expenses yearly, and in some cases, transportation, utilities, healthcare, and some others that people have heard me talk about rise between 6.5%, and healthcare this year has been a 9.5% increase. Add the additional ever revolving and headed my way unfunded mandates coming from the state of Massachusetts, which comes without money. So that means they tell you you have to do this, you have no choice, and you have to do it, yet they forgot to send you the check along with what it costs to do that. And the 2.5% tax revenue clearly is smaller than 6.5, 8.5. I think it's important to point out in our collective bargaining agreements that we settled a 3-year contract with 7 unions, which is a lot of unions. 7 unions in the school department, over 300 people. The collective bargaining agreement percentage rate was 2% across the board each year, which is, if anybody watched anything on television over the last 2 years, you could see that the Mass Teachers Union was not allowing a 2% increase to be settled anywhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I give credit to the school committee, but more importantly to the staff of the Winthrop Public Schools for, and it's a terrible term, taking one for the team, but they know the position we're in. And they know it because I talk about it continuously, about the worries that I have about the funding of our budget. So, lastly, to open the FY25 school year, as we started at 1.4 million beneath what we needed. How did we do that? In the middle of last year, we ordered money and started to prepay for things that we could, which meant that in FY24, our kids missed out on some things. So we're already missing out. And we also made some staffing cuts. We did not replace a first grade teacher, and we did not replace a second grade teacher who left. We also drained almost every revolving account we have, and any grants that we could put our hands on, we went after. However, our financial issues are the same issues that are happening at the state, and when the grants that we have are also going down. So our access to additional money to offset the future that we face in the FY '26 budget is certainly not there. I welcome anybody to come in and I will sit with you. It is intensely boring, but I am very well schooled at showing people what we had for money, where we got it, and how we used it, and the fact that it's gone. So this override, in my opinion, is detrimental. It is critical and it is detrimental to our students. I would like a $10.9 million override or a $25 million override, but we have to be realistic to what the people and the folks in the community can handle, including myself, who is a homeowner of 30-somewhat years, I think. I keep checking my head because my brain is so fried from my
That's your
job.
dad.
And so I do understand the impact with our families. But my push is to strongly encourage the town council, and I've spoken with many of you, to vote positively to have this put on the ballot. Not only do our kids deserve it, our community deserves it, and our future deserves it, including my 2.5 that are on their way. So I thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Carl Rothenhouse, Precinct 6. I wanted to thank the gentleman who talked about adding us as a Purple Heart community. Thank you for voting on that and supporting it. I have an uncle who's currently active service, active duty in the Navy, so I'm really happy to see that they're doing that. I agree with, we need more ferry service. I think that's, you know, it's, MBTA puts out these things, what is the most loved service, and consistently every single year it's the ferry is #1. Everybody loves the ferry, and then #2 it's like usually some random service that like gets #1. But yeah, ferry is always #1, so like why not expand it? If we all love it, why aren't we doing more for it? Thanks for the geothermal presentation, I thought that was great. If there's already rumors of Deer Island doing something with geothermal, I wouldn't mind being the guinea pig for that if it comes with them paying for it and making it easy, like putting things underground. Hey, sure, let's do it. Yeah, my only question would be on that is could you, and this was for the expert who came, could you do, you know, geothermal heating via pipe underground and then do geothermal electricity via the overhead wires? If that was a way to sort of be like a middle option between, you know, keeping everything via wire, not having geothermal versus geothermal underground everything. Just an idea.
Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Hi, Annie Ferrara, Precinct 3. I just want to speak towards supporting the Prop 2.5 override. Everything costs more. In layman's terms, everything costs more. All of us can see that. I don't have kids in this town, but I believe in education and I believe in the future of Winthrop. I love this community, and I think that the children are our future. And I think that it's important to realize that this is just to keep things as they are. It's not to make things better. It's not to make any, grand changes. It's just to keep it as it is. So if we don't want to see any decreases in our education and our school system and the amount of people who work in our schools and are taking care of the kids, we need to pass this. So I hope that you all vote to have it on the ballot, and we are all going to, myself, I know I am, going to work to try to get it passed. So thank you.
Correspondence.
I received none.
Committee reports, Vice President Belcher.
Rules and Ordinance Subcommittee met earlier this week to go over the short-term rental ordinance. We did get some feedback. We wanted to clean up a few things, like what happens to people who already have current licenses. We wanted to get a few things cleared up with Attorney Cipolletta as well. So again, I'm hoping that this is done very, very soon.
Hannah, I was just reading on an internet service about pad splits. Are you familiar with pad splits?
Not enough to speak on it right now.
Well, tiny bit. This is a situation where somebody can come in, and instead of having a living room, they divide everything into two things. one kitchen, and a bedroom with a bath. And so, and they make money on short-term rentals, so people can stay there at least 30 days. So they have a whole process about doing this. It's called pad splits. It's a opportunity, I think, for people that are just getting started, or something like, 35-year-olds. That's what it said on the internet thing that I watched. But I was kind of shocked by that when I think about taking a single-family home and building and renting it out and making it, if you have 3 bedrooms, they were talking about making it 6 because they took their living room, split it up, and that's it. So I don't know, I don't think we ever talked about that in our
No.
meetings.
That's not exactly covered in the ordinance, those are two separate things. There's a couple things in those. Bedrooms have square footage requirements, they require an exterior wall with a window and a closet, but that's separate. The short-term rental ordinance is for people who own their home or their unit, that they can rent it out. It's inspected by fire, inspectional services, and the Board of Health or the Health Department. It is inspected. We're adding into the ordinance that the entire property be inspected, not just what they're renting out. We also have limits and guardrails in this ordinance that say it can be rented to 2 people per bedroom with a maximum of 6 people per unit. So it alleviates any issue with splitting things too many ways. 6 people for a 3-bedroom unit. If you had a 2-bedroom unit, you could only rent it to 4. So it's 2 people per bedroom or 6 people total.
But they could cut up the bedrooms
No.
to a certain
And
space.
and this is where the discussions go into the subcommittee
Yeah.
and for more
It
further
might be
discussion.
worth looking, just to check that little note on that, like pads.
Thank you.
Thank you. School department report. So the school committee's actually met twice since our last meeting. One was to discuss and vote in an override, and that's the one we're going to concentrate on tonight. So the process is, as we've gone over in the past, the school committee had several discussions led by finance team and Superintendent Howard. I want to thank Superintendent Howard and also Jen Power, the chairperson of the school committee, being here tonight. Eventually, the school committee voted to support an override request of $4.9 million. How the process works is they are to send the council a letter asking that their request be considered to be put on the ballot. I will read that letter into the record tonight. We will take a vote to put that on the ballot, on the November ballot. The council will not have any opportunity to make amendments to it, to lower the amount of the money, raise the amount of money. We're going to take what the school committee did. The school committee did the work. The school committee knows the numbers. It's our job to give them the approval or disapproval of putting it on the ballot or not. There were many, many factors that went into this. The school committee discussed having a needs-based override. Have to look at what you can offer the families and the children of the town to maintain services that we currently have. How long do we want this override to last? The town hasn't had an override in 15 years. The town probably, and the schools probably would have requested one 3 or 4 years ago if it wasn't for COVID. COVID artificially maintained many functions in municipalities and mainly schools too over the past several years. Winthrop was extremely fortunate that and prudent in the way that they used their ESSA funds and other COVID-related monies, that they tried their very hardest not to use these monies for reoccurring expenses, and that's what you've seen in many municipalities around the state, which has led to many disastrous situations. So let me read the letter that was sent from the school committee. This is to Jim Lettieri, Winthrop Town Council President, from the Winthrop School Committee, dated July 31st, 2024. Request for override to be placed on November ballot. Greetings. As representative of the citizens of Winthrop, the Winthrop School Committee is dedicated to creating a learning environment that supports all of our students in achieving their full potential. Our vision is to create an educational system that serves as a cornerstone of our community's success and well-being. Every student deserves access to outstanding educational opportunities, cutting-edge resources, and a safe, nurturing learning environment. We want to be a model of inclusivity in education, inspiring lifelong learning and civic engagement. Through strong community support and strategic investing, we seek to cultivate a generation of well-rounded, empowered individuals prepared to thrive in a rapidly changing world. In reviewing budget projections and recent budget allocations, it is clear that the schools cannot continue to provide the current level of services without an increase in budget beyond the town's current projected resources. Therefore, we have voted to ask the town council to place a vote on the November ballot for an override of Proposition 2.5. The proposed override is $4,950,000 to fund the operating budget of the Winthrop Public Schools. If approved, the override will go into effect July 1st, 2025. We anticipate that this override will sustain funding for 3 years, fiscal '26, '27, '28. On behalf of the Winthrop School Committee, thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Jen Powell, Winthrop School Committee Chair. So that is the request before us. I just want to address a few issues that I've already heard about. This is for the operating budget for the Winthrop Public Schools. This is not for maintaining the facilities in any way, shape. This is not to make improvements to the facility structurally. This is not to make improvements to a brand-new building that we just built 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Any kind of request of that type would be a debt exclusion, similar to a request for a fire station or a police station or such. This is for the operating budget of the schools. Superintendent was very clear in discussing the budget and the process, and, you know, to live within a 2.5 budget, basically, in a world where inflation has been rampant over the past several years, is increasingly difficult. We have, the school committee, the superintendent especially, has worked incredibly hard over the past several years to try to maintain a class size in the lower 20s. Several years back in mid-2000s, we were approaching the upper 20s in some classrooms and low 30s, and you know, we thought that was unacceptable, but we did the best we could, and now we've structured things in a way, through the work of the superintendent, the school committee, and her staff, in a way where we're able to offer an incredibly competitive education in a safe, clean environment with class sizes in the low 20s. And we're incredibly fortunate to be able to do that, surrounded by communities that aren't able to do that. You know, we've passed on expenses, and there has been money from the town to support that, but the schools now are funded in a different way. It was basically a 50-50 split. Now it's 60 for the schools, 40 for the town. However, the schools are paying for their own health insurance. The schools are paying literally for the bond on the school building. Anything in this town that is associated with the Winthrop Public Schools is paid by the Winthrop Public Schools. So I am going to ask the council to vote on this evening. This vote, a yes vote, would place this on the ballot in November. It will be during the presidential election. I've also asked the town clerk to call the state election department to make sure, making sure what we can and cannot put on a state and federal ballot, making sure that the wording would be right and such. So we're still waiting back for some answers for that, but we know we will be able to put it on the ballot. It would be a question of whether it's the same ballot or a different ballot. There will be, as the superintendent said, I'm sure that there's going to be a citizens committee that is going to be doing a lot of the legwork for this. I encourage them to educate people. That's all, what we all request on any debt exclusion override or whatever it is, just to be educated. We're not here to tell you how to vote, or I'm not here to tell you how to vote. I'm here to educate you, ask questions, and find the answers, and then just vote on the facts. And if you literally cannot afford it, you should not be voting for it. And if you can't afford it in some way, shape, or form, and you believe in the facts and you believe that it's going to the right thing, you should fund this. Most cities and towns do, especially school overrides, every 5 to 7 years. Winthrop has not had a school override in 15 years. We have not had a town override in 15 years. None of us are taking credit for that. It's just through hard work from many different people in many different departments. It's a team, and, but we're proud of that. But the realization is that I feel that we need to go to the steps. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the request to put a school override for $4.95 million on the ballot in November. There's a motion by Council Vice President Belcher, there's a second by Councilor Aiello. Is there discussion on the council? Councilor Swope.
First of all, I'm very proud, of course, of our school system. They've done a yeoman's job. I want to remember what Lisa just said, 3 years. This is 3 years. If we could have done more, in my mind, it would have been much better. It wouldn't be 3 years. But we'll be back in 3 years, or else we'll have all the problems that we have now, number one. Number two, it's not just the schools, and this is why we have all these other issues. They're all combined, and this is what Shannon just said. We have to think about this as an entire community. We have to think about health and safety. I mean, if you think about moving here, when you're new, what do you look for? You look for good schools, if you have kids. You look for health and safety. You look for sports and diversity. I mean, there's lots of things that go into actually identifying the quality of the schools. Niche is a group that takes a look at judging K through 12 amongst all of the towns. And indeed, they look at all those things. So we can't just put it on the schools when we have fights over here at 7-Eleven. No, that's about parents and involvement and all that stuff. So my point is, that's why we need the firehouse. I mean, we can't do it just as a single little unit, because as much as, I mean, and I am going to work very hard to make sure that we can get this through. Prop 2.5 is so important to us. But let's, as a community, think also about the quality of the work and the life here.
Thank you. Councilor Aiello.
I'm fully in supportive of it. I would just like to suggest a little bit focus on communication strategy, the questions I've gotten. And I understand why people are talking about 3 years. I understand the impact of rising costs against the revenue stream that's going to be approved, hopefully, through this override. I've gotten a question from a number of people about, well, wait a minute, this is going to be a permanent increase in my taxes. That's the way 2.5 works. Why does it only have a 3-year benefit?
We hope it goes longer than 3 years with my
That's right.
strategic budgeting. I've managed to drag it out for a good 7.5 years.
Yeah.
I managed to continue to be as good as I am and let it last for 4 or 5 years.
For that long. And what's happening, right, is that costs are deteriorating against a fixed amount you're raising. So just let's make sure that that kind of thing is emphasized in the communication strategy. So thank you.
Yeah, this is where the education comes in. This $4.9 million is not needed for next year, and I do believe, as the superintendent just said, that this will be stretched out a little bit. Now, this is, based on this amount, this is also going to create an education stabilization account. So some of this money will be parked to sustain future benefits from it. The school, like the town, potentially every year, potentially could have some sort of turnbacks. Those turnbacks would be placed into the stabilization account, which would be controlled by a town council, and they would be given, the funds would be given to the schools to maintain this as far as it could possibly go. Again, it's an education. It's not easy. The superintendent will tell you it's not something you just learn overnight, but I encourage these committees to have coffee hours. I know I'm available, and I'm sure others will be available to answer any questions. I'm sure the superintendent and the chairperson will have talks on WCAT to help educate, have the transcript to help educate. You know, I think social media is good and very bad in a lot of different ways. So, you know, anything could be on social media, and there's really no accountability for it. So you really, I think it's good to have in-person talks, discussions, and to get facts and try to sustain them. Yes, anybody else? Seeing none, there's a motion on the floor. It was seconded. I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Counselor Tassinari?
Yes.
Counsel Munson?
Yes.
Counsel Costigan?
Yes.
Counsel DeMarco? Counsel Aiello?
Yes.
Counsel Swope?
Yes.
Counsel DeRoss?
Yes.
Vice President Belcher?
Yes.
President Lettieri?
Yes, motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. CDICR, Town Manager report, actually, first.
Right, thank you, Mr. Council President. Shouldn't be too long, I was on vacation last week, but I did want to remind everybody, we've got Saturday, August 14th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., we have hazardous household waste collection day. We'll have more information on this on the website, and in my town manager's report on a weekly basis with regard to what's accepted, costs and whatnot, but I want to put on everybody's radar. Saturday, August 24th, from 9 a.m. to noon, down at the DPW parking lot at 100 Kennedy Drive. That's going on. Also, with regard to some veteran stuff, we also have another memorial dedication coming up for PFC Robert Shepard on August 16th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the corner of Loring Road and Court Road. So I wanted to remind everybody if they had time to attend that. As was mentioned earlier, I was going to announce to council right before I left for vacation. We did get notification that our 2 applications that we put in for MVP grants were not approved. We had one for $1.2 million approximately for Morton and Banks, and the second one for a little over $400,000 for over in the Pico Ave area to do some studies over there. We received notification. I was a little concerned because I was getting from other communities that, they were getting their approval letters early. We didn't get ours till late. I was hoping for alphabetical, but that didn't work out. So we didn't get it till later on in the day, but we got notified that we didn't get it. We did do some digging in. Thank you to Representative Turco. Talked to some members over at the EEA who decided this. They had some concerns, as they said to Rep. Turco, that, maybe they thought we should have fine-tuned, the ask a little bit more. I mean, this was, a couple of different options we were looking at, and then we were gonna design the one that we thought was best. And we had let them know which way we were leaning, towards the earth berm and trying to protect the coastline, but that was what they told them. I did request a meeting with them, so Rep. Turco is gonna see if we can set that up so we can actually meet with them and find out exactly why and what their concerns were, because I was on those calls and I didn't recall them being that overly cautious, but again, it might have been when, they also said they got a high volume of requests for money and, they couldn't approve everybody, but that's where we stand with that. As Councilor DeRoss said, we do have the first climate meeting coming up next week, August 12th. So looking forward to that. I believe that's in this room, right? Or
I believe so.
yeah, okay, good. And then I did right before, again, I left for vacation, I had a meeting out there with our consultant at Euro Beach, along with a member from DEP, trying to finalize the beach management plan, so we can then update the citizenry once we have the updated plan, talking about where the dune would go, trying to shrink the dune down a little bit, and also, beach cleanup, where we can do the cleanup, where we can't, and things like that, and concerns over the, some of the staircases and locations, if we end up putting the berm up a little closer to the wall. So these things are all being worked out. I'm still waiting on the final draft plan to get back from our consultant. Once I do, I'll get that, once we're ready to go on to the administrative consent order and have this plan approved, certainly have him come in and update the council so we can, and then also we promise to go back out and do another neighborhood update with the folks out at near Euro Beach and Point Shirley. So more to follow on that, but I just want to give an update that we are moving forward. It is going to require some work next spring. I've already talked to Director Calla. There'll be certain things we have to do, like if we bring material out for dune replacement and plantings, we'll have to get certain size materials, so we'll have to have that spec'd out and take soil samples and have that delivered, and then we can spread it out and, take care of the plantings and whatnot. The benefit of that is if we get the dune planted, we plant it in the spring, it'll give spring and summer and fall for the plantings to take before we go into another winter where the storms could, pull at it and damage it, so it gives us the best chance. But those are things we're working on, so I just wanted to give the council an update on that. Other than that, I'm certainly open for questions from the council.
And I will say on the MVP, it's very disappointing. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it smells very political to me when Revere would get one-year funding for the same project that we're looking for in Boston also, and it just so happens that Revere has passed their 3A, and Boston is not even required to do anything. So that's a little discouraging there, but take it for what it is worth. I do have a question that I asked last year, and I know we got some answers, but it's just driving me crazy lately is the scooters and the e-bikes. They're just, I know it's very difficult, I know it's hard to control, I know that you're not required to wear a helmet if you're over 18, but there's gotta be something that we can do with this, because I just think it's just an accident waiting to happen.
Yep, you told me concerns, I brought it up to, Chief Goodwin now. And we're gonna, have a sit down about it, see if we can come up with a plan, so we'll get back to them, I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you. Counselor Swope?
Trash. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm confused. You probably can help with this. So, I put out the trash the other day, and Capital, they're good friends with me now.
Yeah.
We talk.
Okay?
Okay. I now know that if the lid is
We
too
do
high.
have, not to,
They won't do
but
it.
we do have a discussion on new business on this very subject.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Want me
we
to
can
wait?
talk about it in more detail then, yeah. But you could ask another question.
One.
Yeah.
Rules about trash. Two, the next question is, the orange bags have to be in a container. I just threw the container out because I thought we didn't need the containers because we already had them from the town. So just clarify that when we get to new
But yes,
business.
we
Yeah,
will.
we will, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Vice President Belcher?
Thank you. Just some questions about the Ural Beach Management Plan and any changes we've made. In that community meeting, it was very clear that the citizens are most concerned about the safety of their homes and then their ability to recreate on the beach. So any changes that have been made between then and the proposed plan then and where we're at now, have they improved those things? You may not be able to tell me too much because nothing's approved yet, but in what vein are those?
Some of the concerns I know the neighbors had is, those little round mound dunes that we were proposing
Yeah.
originally. DEP sort of didn't like those either, because, concerned about the washout. So what they'd prefer to see is to have the dune back up against the wall, against the seawall.
Fully against the
Fully
sea.
against the seawall and keep her, 2 to 3 foot reveal at all times, and then do the plantings. So that actually means less berm, less material, so they were in favor of that. That impacts the staircases, right? So as we put that along the wall, we get a lot of privately owned staircases, so we have to try to come up with a policy if, do we redo them as town staircases and try to fund them, or do we talk to the neighbors, like maybe every third or fourth house has a staircase? So those kind of issues need to be worked out, but that's certainly less intrusive on the beach and a better plan, but we wanna, that's what Mr. Dwight Dunk is working on that plan.
One concern I have is with the reveal of the wall, the smaller that is, the more at risk, at least from someone who's in a house right on the other side of that
Right.
wall. It feels that the water is coming much closer to the house
Right.
when it's ramping up over the wall.
Correct.
So I'm a little concerned about that, a decreased reveal. But is DEP dead set on the 2 to 3 foot reveal for the wall?
Yeah, and that would get most of them have around that now anyway, and we maintain that with the dunes that's there. The current reveal closer to the handicap entrance now is probably closer to 5 to 6 feet.
Right.
So you'd only put probably a 2 or 3 foot berm, and then, extend it out so you could have a nice slope, and then, do the plantings.
Okay.
If you do the plantings and it works the way it's supposed to work, the plantings will hold, and then, the berm shouldn't build too much on top of that, so. But again, that's gonna be the importance of when we plant it.
And they're still considered sacrificial berms, right? Because the idea is that they're hit with the waves and they dissipate the energy and it
Correct.
protects the wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still a barrier beach, and that hasn't changed.
And I just want to request we have another community meeting
Oh, without a
about this
doubt, yeah.
before it's approved and enacted.
Yep, we promise that, and we will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Counselor Ayala?
Just a couple of updates from some public comments. Ms. Peabody was here 6 months ago, maybe 9
Okay.
months ago, with respect to the park up at the Highlands. And I remember at that point, we were gonna investigate whether or not we could replace the gate and maybe have the gate locked in the evening. I just don't know, was there,
He followed through on that.
say that again?
He followed through on
Yeah.
it.
So is that happening? So there
Yeah,
is a
it
gate?
didn't happen,
that's-
all, yeah, I think we,
Yeah, he followed through with me. Is that all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we talked about the fact, and you mentioned the fact that we don't lock gates on any of our parks anymore. But that's why, I met with Betty, and we thought an idea might be that if we could put cameras up there, then we wouldn't send police up there when there weren't when there was no problem, but we could watch the cameras and see when there was a problem, because there are lots of needles, there's broken bottles,
Yep.
and she personally picks up stuff.
Yep.
So if we can't rope it off, and she's willing, by the way, to go there and lock it.
Yep.
She's willing to do the work if we could do it, but if it's not gonna be something that we can follow through on because of the time or the staff, then the cameras we thought might be an alternative.
Right, and I've got that down to take a look at that. and see
Yeah,
what
so
we
if you
can
could
find.
just report back to the council in the next couple of meetings about what a potential resolution would be, that would be great. I know I started a chain of communications with the chief engineer for DCR.
I called and
Relative
left
to the
a message.
rebuilding of the
Yeah.
wall and the conversations with the city of Boston. Has he been helpful?
I called
At all?
him before I left and then right afterwards, so I'm waiting to get a call back, so I'll follow up again tomorrow, but I called him
Okay.
yesterday and I haven't heard back yet, so
My
I'll
my
follow up
sense is
again
if we
tomorrow.
need to accelerate that up to
Yep.
the commissioner.
I've
we should
got his
do
number
that.
in my phone as well, so.
It's been a
yeah.
while, okay, good. I just, not many people knew that conversation was going on. Just a request, just pivoting off of what Ms. Pulo said about needing a strategic plan. One of the underlying elements of it is a municipal fiscal impact analysis. So set aside 3A, let's imagine 3A goes away. We have, previous councils have rezoned the center, they've rezoned some of the waterfront, and we would anticipate over time that there's the rights to build about 600 additional units, roughly, 550, 650, somewhere in there. And we still have the constraints of 2.5, so we got sort of some of the new construction, 2.5, and then what is the impact of the new construction on schools and firefighters and all that? That would help us with a strategic plan to know the underlying fiscal likelihoods or scenarios that would happen. So if we can get that funded, I don't know if that's in the next budget cycle or whatever, but that's a critical piece to be able to make a lot of decisions on town strategy. And then the last one is, any update, I know this is a while ago, and honestly, I just can't remember how we left it. The intersection of Washington Street, Pleasant Street, and Winthrop. We had gotten a recommendation from TSAC about looking at that intersection for potential modifications.
Didn't we just do some improvements there, Steve, or no?
We did ADA,
Yeah, so I thought.
ADA upgrades,
Yeah.
handicap ramps, we added.
Yeah, no, that was great, that was great.
all the pedestrian.
But they had suggested that we look at the configuration of the intersection, maybe bringing the sidewalks out closer and looking at the possibility of signalization. But I don't know if we funded that or not.
Not yet, no. We applied for one grant, but we didn't get it, and then we were looking for another grant to apply for. So it's not in the capital plan this year, but
But
it's
it's in the
certainly
grant
something.
application
Yeah, it's
process.
something we're
Okay.
looking to find additional funding for.
All right, that'd be great. All right, thank you.
One more thing. Variances, I just need to understand it better. Because I'm so concerned about parking in so many, so I understand that there's supposed to be 2 parking spaces per unit, except in the CBC,
CBD,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, which is 0.75 and 1.25, for two.
Yep.
So, but I understand that we are still allowing variances in stuff that we're building, and is there a way that we can how do we talk about that, Jim? How do we change that? Is that a motion, is that a discussion,
It's not a discussion, it's much more involved than a discussion. I mean, it's a
We still
process.
need to do it, I think.
Well, you could need to discuss it, we don't necessarily need to
We
do
need
it.
to discuss it.
And it's
But
still
we
the right of
can
the
fix it.
ZBA. If the ZBA feels as a fiscal, they have
Right,
the
they can
ability
still
to do that.
Do a variance.
Yeah, through a variance.
I don't know what that means. I don't know where we left it. What does that mean in terms of discussing it?
No matter what the town, the city approves, the CBA, they're an appeals process, so that you could appeal it and they could grant it.
Okay,
You could get tougher on your
yeah.
policies or
Yeah,
not.
even if we were to change the parking requirements or add additional fees, like the ZBA still has that ability to, give variances, so it might be worthwhile to maybe get on their agenda or maybe attend one of their meetings and talk to them about that.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
And just, it's crazy, I mean, we're only, what are we, August 6th, but back to school is not too far away. I think the teachers start like the 25th or 26th. And our next meeting is the 20th, so I saw the DPW director here, I will request, and I know you guys pretty much do it every year, but just to see if we can get all the crosswalks done around the schools prior to the 26th, if that's possible.
We just did most of them.
Most of them are done, but
Most of them are done, and we'll be repaving Kennedy Drive the week of the 19th, and we'll pave those right after.
Okay, and we're good with the construction going on along Revere Street, and they have understanding of when school start, and we have a plan in place that's going to,
The contractor knows, and we'll have more follow-up meetings as we get closer, but yeah, I know they gotta make those accommodations. They're really pushing to try to get up over the hill there with the stormwater, I know before then, so,
all right.
near Kennedy.
Counselor Costigan.
Mr. President, thank you. Since we're talking about schools, crosswalks, safety issues, being on the safety committee itself, and I had a little discussion with Mr. Caller as well, and I think I mentioned it to you. Any plans for the lights at McGee's Corner to be implemented prior to the school opening with regards to them not working?
Don't think prior, I think it's part of the TIP project,
Yeah,
right?
the traffic lights work. He's speaking to the pedestrian.
Correct.
Yeah.
The pedestrian crossing lights.
Right.
It is part of the TIP project, which I explained in our conversation.
Correct.
There is no easy, quick fix to that. It's corroded wiring, corroded conduits, subgrade. We require excavating through that intersection to put conduits in, put wiring in, which would then get into relay boards in the equipment to update that. In order to excavate through the intersection, we'd also have to sever all of the traffic light control loops. Those would have to be put back together. This is all part of the scope of the TIP project. Certainly wouldn't be done prior to school. If the town council or the town manager had an appetite to not wait the year and make a temporary repair, it's gonna be a very costly temporary repair just to have them rip it back out in a year to do what's part of the TIP project. So that was the gist of our conversation. That's really all I had to.
And no, and you were very informative, and I appreciate that. And just to follow up on that,
Yes.
Mr. President, with regards to the council being comfortable with regards to pedestrians crossing that roadway, it's getting darker. That is frequented, as we know, it's a very busy intersection. One of my fears is that we have children going to school. We have elderly people crossing there as well. I've already received a couple of phone calls, and if anyone's been on Winthrop discussion group, they're not happy right now. So there is some discussion with regards to, is anyone addressing this? And now it's gotten to my level where I've been informed, so this is why I bring it up. I would hope that maybe we come up with some type of process where we can address this in a proper manner to keep the people in Winthrop safe who do use that. That is a very busy roadway, let alone the children who cross there are a big concern of mine. I'd hate to do nothing about it. All of a sudden have an accident happen there, and then everyone's pointing the finger. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it's a little tough sleeping at nighttime to think that if we do nothing, who's taking responsibility? So I just want that thought process in everybody's head here. And again, I'll take any recommendation from the council, from the president or town manager, et cetera, that if we have to wait, we have to wait. If there's another plan to do something, by all means, I'm fully for it.
And I think one of the things, and the superintendent, I'm sure, goes through this every year, trying to get crossing guards is incredibly hard to do, and it becomes somewhat costly too. But I would be happy as a town council if we can, if the superintendent can help, or if we can help in some way. We could help on the financial end of it, I believe, if we could try to get.
So with that particular area, you probably couldn't help on the financial end because I think you'd have to pay somebody an awful lot of money to stand there, and knowing that most intersections like that, if you have a crossing guard at it, if you've driven through Riviera, East Boston, the crossing guard presses the button, so that red stop sign, and people best usually don't stop people. So they press the crossing button, it stops the traffic, and then the role of the crossing guard is to move the kids across when it's actually safe to do so. We've had crossing guards at that spot in the last couple of years, 2 or 3 times, and they've lasted less than a week. And then there's, from a financial perspective, if I could find people to do the crossing guard job, which is anybody out there in the public that would like to call me, or walk the application to your house, it's not long. And getting those people to come and actually stay on. We have a line item for crossing guards. I have yet to expend that line item because we can't get the people to do it. It's a 2 to 3 8-hour paid job that's really more of an hour commitment, but it's at the early morning, at the beginning of the day, in the rain, the wind, the snow, doesn't matter what the weather is, and then you go home and then you come back for another 45 minutes at the end of the day. So a certain person who has that time, we have 2 great people that are working for us now on our property. If you look, just, they typically don't wear a vest, but our teaching staff and our aides, our principals, our custodians, we have lunch monitors who all kick in and step outside, and they don't get paid extra, but that is what they're doing. And they express the same concerns. You know, there's about 25 areas in town that I would like to see us be able to put crossing guards at. That particular spot, once the lights are up and running and consistently working, I bet I could get somebody who would take that on, maybe.
Once the ped lights are functioning, I don't think there will even be a real need for them.
Right,
Because they'll do exactly what they're supposed to do.
And so the need is the education of the kids, which we do.
To
So
move-
you need to teach kids how to
to go
press
to
the button
another
and
spot.
wait
Yeah.
in order to cross the street, because people don't think of that, they actually have to be taught to do that.
I appreciate all that information. You know me, I'm a nosy guy. I actually stood down there and pressed every single one of those buttons. Put out my timer, 5, 6, 7 minutes. Not once did any one of those lights turn red. Actually, it was much more dangerous with regards to taking that right, heading to the bridge. And I'm just thinking, somebody steps off seeing a red light there, somebody's taking that right, it's all over. They just had that tragic incident up in Andover last year. Something similar to that as well. Only the child or the mother didn't press the button. So I'm just, you know, it's well and good if the lights did work and they all turned red, that'd be great. But I think we're dealing with a different animal here.
Those ped buttons.
But I think you just quoted, we're looking a year out.
We're looking at the year out, and the problem is.
That's the issue.
Even if you wanted to say, okay, well, why don't we go with the solar option? You can't sync a solar-powered ped light with your traffic signals that are hardwired. So you might hit the ped light, it's gonna blink and great, but the light might still be green. So it's an appetite for this, you know, recipe for
And
disaster. So, other than directing students to cross in another area,
Which we do, so we,
You know.
except for the students that are going to the middle school and high school, and the principal and the staff works with them and reminds them, and we send out flyers to families to educate them. They're a little bit older, and at the elementary level, there is continuous discussion. Now that Eileen Pearson's gone, it might not be that continuous, but it's close, reminding parents where to walk. And Kennedy Drive, we're blessed to have a detail up there often, at the top of Kennedy. But that left and that right into Kennedy while you're on your cell phone or while you're, stopping your kids from fighting in the backseat of the car, you take your eyes off the road. So we do educate parents that it's nice to think that the drivers are the people that have to pay attention. It's really you as a parent with your student now. Because we can't control the drivers with cell phones and kids jumping over the backseat. So it's an ongoing thing in my office on the daily, so.
I agree, and I just want to take into consideration people getting out of work, having to use that as well as they get left off at the bus there. And really, the 2 people who I talked to were people who did take the T, got off, and as they crossed to go across 2 McGee's Liquors there, they've almost been hit as they were crossing. It looks red to the left, and then somebody's coming right down Winthrop. They're not stopping, so that's the issue, and I understand it's very difficult.
I thought I saw the former council president's hand go up when we were looking for crossing guards, is that?
Oh, there we go.
Raise your hand there.
I applied and she said no.
Councilor Munson?
To that point, I know that we had talked about the Walden Street area, how now it's become so crazy, and we would love to see a crossing guard there, and I think you responded to a group text, or a group email rather, to the same point where it's really hard to employ someone. One of the ideas that I thought would be really nice would be the flexibility of just offering just morning shifts, or even a few days of just morning shift, and then have like a group of like 3 or 4 people handling one spot.
And I do think we've done that in the past. We've also looked at subcontracting it out. So I had an agency come out here and go around the town and look at the different spots that does this for a living. Obviously, it wasn't something that landed in our budget. I don't think I have to explain that. You know, it was well over, for I think they had picked 5 spots after we toured the whole town, and it was well over $150,000. Because you're talking about insurance, they're a company, so there's medical insurance involved. I certainly will be putting stuff out again next week, you know, looking for people, flexible shifts.
Right.
Are things that we certainly have advertised in the past and will continue, because it's a good thought.
Thank you, thank you. On a different point, if you don't mind, I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask you, Tony, if you don't mind, on the education piece of what we're asking that, you know, when we voted to put this override on the ballot, and I know there's going to be groups of people that speak to it and talk about it, but as from the town, I would love to be able to see an education piece on the town manager's blog, for example, not only about what the dollar amount per month is. I know we've colloquially spoken about it here as a council, and Jim is very good with numbers and he rips them out like and talks about it, no problem. But I'd love to see an actual documented piece that says, for a typical single-family owner, what does the override mean to them on a monthly basis? And I would also love to see that also applied to the fire station debt override that could possibly be on that same ballot. If that's something that we could try to get that education and that communication out there, that'd be lovely. That's it for me.
And I'm sure that that committee is going to have a website, and they should have a link like we did with the fire building committee last time, but it would be good that the town could do something like that, and just to get it out there now, right, to not put anything behind. The average single-family home in Winthrop, cost of a $4.95 million override would be roughly $935 a year, $17.91 a week.
And our finance director's already put that together, we can
Yeah.
get that out. We've got it all broken down by the average, and then all the way up to $1 million home and all that,
Right.
so yeah, we have that.
And you'll be able to just put, and it's assessed value, right? It's not like if somebody thinks, oh, my house is worth $1 million, then it's gonna cost me
That'd
this.
be the value.
It's the assessed value, so you could go on the town, you could get the assessed value of your house, then you could plug it in, and it will tell you exactly what it's gonna be.
That's beautiful.
And that's something that if it is passed, and it was mentioned in the letter, this is not something that would take effect November 7th or whatever. It wouldn't take effect until the first quarter of fiscal 26.
This is all better said from us, from a certified official source like the town manager's blog, so that this water cooler conversation where things can kind of get out of hand, I would love to see, speaking to Shannon Poulos's comment specifically, that collective kind of approach to our vision of the town as a council. It'd be nice if we were able to communicate a lot more, as opposed to having Facebook having a thriving community where a lot of misinformation happens. So I know that we're not going to be capable of being on Facebook and respond to every comment and every post, but to have that message coming from us was wonderful. So thank you, Tony, I
I
appreciate it.
probably would suggest you never respond to anything as a council.
I've been taught not to.
Councilor Aiello.
I just have one additional thought related to Councilor Costigan's issue about managing that intersection. This would be with respect to the contractor doing the Revere Street project. One of the realities is, I mean, they've been doing a great job, but they're pulsing vehicles in one direction or the other, and it creates a different kind of pattern at the intersection with a lot more surges, a lot more traffic arriving at one given time. Maybe a conversation with them about saying, since their detour, which is working fine for construction, is having an unintended impact down at McGee's Corner, whether they could have a police detail or civilian flagger assigned to the intersection to mitigate their one-way traffic surge. It might take a strong argument with them. They'll probably reject it.
Right now, struggling to fill details
Yeah.
as it is.
Well, that's why I added civilian flaggers. I don't know if there is such, I mean, I know they're legal, but I don't know.
Not here yet in Mass, yeah.
My contract's not allowed.
Yeah, yeah.
So but could they get
Outside
police?
They could,
You know,
again, they struggle,
even
I
with
haven't,
them?
I haven't got, on my
Yeah.
lead line replacement projects, most days we're working without details.
Jeez,
They can't go,
okay.
but,
Thought I'd try.
but, you know, you're right, it does change the pattern. They've been doing good, you know,
Yeah.
the restriction that the town put on them was that, they had to keep a lane of traffic at all times, so they're alternating traffic and not sending all that traffic down the side roads, which was everybody's concern.
They're doing a great job, I agree.
So, yeah, but it does definitely change the pattern to the intersection, absolutely.
Mr. President, last comment. In the event we're not going to, my recommendation is in the event we're not going to fix those lights anytime soon, I would recommend that proper signage be placed on every street light that is operational or non-operational, that is not working, to inform the public that this intersection, as much as it looks like it may be working, is not operational. Give them the opportunity to realize that when they're crossing, that the lights are not pedestrian safe.
One more comment, Councilor Swope.
Councilor Watson, I know the committee's already thinking about what you're thinking about on all these fronts, whether it's 3A, whether it's Prop 2.5, whether it's the override.
Firehouse.
What kind of facts could be available? And I'd love for you to maybe talk to the committee first, because I don't want just one fact out there and say, oh, that's it, 935, that's it, I'm not voting for that, because we're trying to put together, I think, a kind of a framework, so people just don't see that number as a jarring thing, but they realize the benefits of everything, so.
A good, full, comprehensive
Yeah.
education process.
That's right, and so I think that's what the committee's working on, so maybe Tony can work.
All right, CDICR?
They have not met yet. They meet again this month, August 14th at 6 PM. So hopefully we'll have an update at the meeting on the 20th.
And the same with the policy-making committees, old business, firehouse update. I know I've asked, and Councilor Costigan has been down to the site. We're looking at, we're still going forward with firehouse and recommendations and getting a questionnaire out to the public. This is something that's not going away. We've talked about, somebody mentioned something, maybe it was about maybe it was Mr. Dowd had mentioned about being built in 1933 and had a 50-year shelf life, or the fire station was built in 1884. And I don't even think it was a 50-year shelf life back then, but it is what it is. And we are going forward, we're looking at and have talked to K&B, Kessel Booth, our engineer, our architect, to try to get a plan together that we could show and share for the basketball courts on Walden Street, and how inclusive it would be. It would be fire station only. It would include infrastructure, which would have an underground storage tank that would help alleviate even flooding at the parking lot at the Pillar House, along with taking care of the water coming down from the ATC. Looking into extending the parking lot at the bottom of the E.B. Newton to extend out towards the right, if you're looking down from the E.B. Newton towards the basketball courts. Looking at changing the direction of the walkway coming down from the ATC. Now it's going towards the Pillar House. Hopefully, with this project, it would go towards a new parking area. This would also include excavating behind the basketball courts towards the ATC, approximately 20 or 25 feet with a retaining wall. It would include excavating in front of the trees, if you're looking from Walden Street towards the E.B. Newton, between the basketball courts and the parking area. It would talk to excavating some of that area so we could be building more parking and space there. We'll also want to talk with the schools about potential pickup and drop-offs and how that would affect that to make that a safe environment for kids and parents. So this is potentially feasible. We've talked to them. They've given us a price as to what this type of project might cost. That price is going to be in the $35 million range, when it includes everything. It would also include, we would include relocating the existing basketball courts, because it's only 2 basketball courts, but I know how much use they get, even for the school, but regardless, just for the community as a whole, they get a tremendous amount of use. And this could also be a potential benefit to move it a little further away from the Pillar House, but in that approximate area. So we have a plan for that. So this is all going to be something that's going to be very fluid, but we think we're going to have information that we could get some sort of questionnaire out to citizens to see a plan that they might be willing to support. And I'll let the town manager discuss anything I might have missed there.
Nope, you covered most of it. The pricing, I mean, I think it's gonna be up to the council to decide, which we bring forward. I mean, I think we've sort of dialed in on, potentially the middle school site in there, so maybe those are the two options you decide to put out there, and we do survey questions around that. And then go from there. So, I mean, that's gonna be probably the next topic of discussion is which
Council
sites we
When
want.
is it going on the ballot?
Well, that would be up to the council, but we're not there yet. Personally, I would like it to go on in November, but that's a situation, and again, a debt exclusion is much different than an override and other questions. A potential debt exclusion for a firehouse would not hit the taxes for probably 2 years, probably the first to second quarter in fiscal '27, and when an override hits, it hits, right? So it's hit fully, and you're gonna get charged the first quarter for that 25% of the cost of the year. On a debt exclusion, the money is borrowed in different tranches, so you're gonna borrow a little at the beginning to get started. You don't wanna borrow the money that you're not gonna need for 2 years, so it takes 3 to 3.5 years before it fully hits, and then you look at the debt exclusion that would be coming off. So it's a much longer conversation, but right now, we wanna get input from the citizens to see, A, if they're amenable to either, but B, more importantly, which one they would like us to focus on. Councilor Munson.
Did you indicate just now where the courts will be relocated to?
I did not indicate that.
Okay, and then
I
so
have an
that's,
idea, though,
you
but-
do, would it be on Ingleside Park
Yeah.
area? It would be probably adjacent to the
It would probably
ice?
be somewhere behind the ring.
Okay.
But again, that's, not set in stone, but I think that, personally, I think that that's something that would need to be done before we demolish the existing courts or do any stuff like that. It would all be not necessarily part of the financial cost. I think that's something that the town might be able to pick up in some way, shape, or form, but it would be part of the project that we would be sharing.
I have received a lot of pushback on the cost of relocating something that's already working, and so I just would be curious as to what number that would be, just so that it can put that to bed if it's exorbitant or not.
Okay. Councilor Costigan.
Yeah, I just want to thank Manager Marino and Chief Wiley for their extensive information with regards to that site and the history of the Winthrop Fire Department, and in particular, the Shirley Street Station and the need for just one single station. I respect that. To Mr., I should say, Councilor Munson's point, cost of moving the basketball courts, and it may involve a few other things. In looking at the original public safety building presentation in '23, if I'm correct, this will only be a fire station. Phase 1 had a price tag somewhere around $25 million, so I'd be concerned with the $35 million price tag and want to see some type of line item as it relates to the overall cost of the project, providing it's the basketball courts. So I was under the impression that moving them to the courts would be saving us some substantial money, but it doesn't seem like the price tag's moving too much. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Two things about that. One is the escalators, right? Pushing it out to 2026 adds $3 million to the cost with the increase of 10% or more over years. So that's part of that number, the $3 million there. The second piece of that is, we were at almost, I think, 40 million or 39 for the original fire station. Just the fire station, that included $6 million in acquisition. So, you back off the 6, that takes you to 34, and then you add in the 3. So, I mean, actually, the fact that it's coming in at, 34, 35 is, sharpening the pencil a little bit and adding some, site work for retaining walls and whatnot. So that's, that's where we're at. So that's where that number's at. And that includes all the design, the contingencies. That's all in there. The construction cost itself is probably closer to the 25 million or the 26 million, but when you add in all the things we have to have there, the cost escalators, the contingency plans, things like that, that's where those numbers come up to the 35 million.
Thank you.
Councilor Chestnut.
Thank you, Mr. President. Moving in the right direction on the new firehouse. Let's talk about the existing firehouse for a second. You did mention in the last council meeting that there's failing in the cement floor.
Yep.
That it's gonna need immediate repair. How is that progress since the last we met?
We've had to have some soil samples done down below, which we did. Soils were fine, so we know we can, if we wanted to choose to infill that space, we can do that. We're also looking at, cost of moving the utilities up. And to be clear, that, we're not concerned about the floor falling in right now. There's also looking at other options, right? Can we look at potentially less expensive ways to straddle over the existing footings to put steel plates in and things like that? So we're looking at all the different options, but we will have a number and a plan back for the council hopefully soon. We're working with the structural engineer and the consultant group for the, doing the infill, whether it's flowable fill or the new foam that they want to use or, things like that. So we just want to make sure we bring the best plan forward and the most cost-effective option, and it also provides the safest for the firefighters.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, so that will be, again, on the agenda at the next meeting, and will continue to be on the agenda as we get further updates on the firehouse. New business, there's a motion the town council accept the letter to MassDOT. This motion was brought by Councilor Aiello. I thank him for that. And the motion is for the council to accept and sign the attached letter addressed to MassDOT Secretary Tibbetts Nutt and MBTA General Manager Peter Eng regarding operational concerns surrounding the Winthrop Quincy Ferry. The letter should be addressed to numerous other people. It's a 3-page letter. I will ask the counselor to give us a Reader's Digest version of what the letter states. I know a lot of people have written it. It's been on the website, in the agenda packet. So, Councilor Aiello.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for putting this on the agenda for tonight. So basically, we try to describe a few things. Number one is that the town really has been taken for granted for a long period of time by the MBTA. A little bit of the history there was that we used to have our own bus line, privately owned. It went bankrupt. The T then took over the governmental obligation to provide the service, but decided to outsource it. I'm not criticizing that decision, but they never really put any standards for what that bus service should look like. So for years, we ended up with really non-traditional transit buses serving this town. We didn't even have, the vendor was not required, nor did the T required to put up MBTA bus signs. The schedules weren't published on the MBTA website. They did not have fare collection equipment that allows you to use a Charlie card. If anybody is a regular card user, you know that if you tap on a bus and then go to the train, you get a discount on the train and vice versa, right? So we were effectively overpaying for all that. So a lot of that stuff has been slowly fixed over time, but we still have 0 MBTA bus shelters. We had a couple of people talk about people standing in the rain, standing in the snow, not protected by the elements. And so the letter generally says, we got to do a better job, MBTA, with respect to the buses. And this notion of cutting the bus service out to Point Shirley is really a non-starter. So that's bundle one. Bundle two is the ferry service. So this town went and got a grant for a ferry, ran it for a number of years ourselves. The MBTA had agreed to take it over. And in the first year, actually ran the system, which was last year, really well. This year, we're not sure what happened. I know town manager's been trying to get answers out of the MBTA and the DOT, but the patterns are in reverse. Winthrop people have to get on, then go to Quincy, and then go into Boston. It has dropped our ferry service on some of the routes on the way back. In particular, Winthrop people can't even get on the boat because it's filling up with Quincy people because they have that better connection now. They go right to Quincy. The whole thing is really an abomination. So this tries to set forth the history of transit in Winthrop in recent years, focus on the bus system, and then a lot of focus on the ferry system and asking for particular cures there. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have had from reading the letter.
Thank you, Councilor Aiello. It was well-written. We appreciate all the work you put on it, and I think it is very much needed. Any questions on it? Councilor Swope?
Just following up on the question about 3A. I don't think that has any impact on our designation, does it?
It shouldn't have any impact on our designation, and certainly, let me say this, I'm hoping for quick action by the T on these things.
Yeah, me too.
quick action by the T on these things and the timeline for 3A.
Yeah, yeah,
Ships passing in the night.
yeah.
You know, the one good thing is the T has bought 2 new ferries, modest-sized ferries that would fit in the Winthrop system. We gotta get them assigned to us. You won't see, if we get a great reaction on this letter and a really good dialogue, my guess is we won't see improvements until July 1st of next year.
That's a great
So,
letter. Thanks so much for doing
Okay.
it.
But it's a good concern, so.
Councilor Munson?
Thank you. Councilor Aiello, do you have any idea of if this could turn into a year-round service, if the MBTA really did respond well to this letter and really took ownership of the transportation?
I think it could. I think a well-designed, well-priced, frequent service could be successful 7 days a week and year-round. Part of the concern about year-roundedness with even the Hingham Ferry traditionally has been the concern about winters and winter ice. And in the last sort of 6 or 7 years, the Hingham Ferry has never been obstructed by ice. I mean, it's part of what's going on with climate change and warmer seawaters and stuff. But certainly in the areas that we traverse, it could be year-round service.
Great.
Councilor Tessenari?
I just want to read into the record, for the record, as this letter is going to my current employer, I have to recuse myself and remove my name from the letter, unfortunately.
Okay.
And allow me to say one more thing. Since everybody likes the letter, I will fess up that a co-author of this was Vice President Belcher, so she should get equal credit.
I thought you were going to say AI, but that's
Just as good.
Thank you. So with the change of the name for Councilor Tassinari being removed, with that being done, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, and there is one recusal. Please note that. Thank you, Councilor Ayala. New business. So I'm asking to waive Council Rule 2A for having a special meeting on August 15th. This meeting would be at 6 o'clock. It would be at the Senior Center, and this would be a joint meeting with the Winthrop Planning Board. This would give the Winthrop Planning Board the opportunity to share with us what they have so far in terms of, basically it will give us their viewpoint on 3A and what they are going to be recommending. After that meeting, they would still be required to vote as a planning board on their final recommendation. They have, and I'm going to ask the planning board, but they have a meeting that following Monday night on the 19th. They might be able to add it to their agenda at the end and just have a vote. At that, or whenever they do decide to vote, hopefully shortly after our joint meeting, that will then come to the council automatically. We will have a 30-day period, 30-day window to act on it. And so I would like to see a vote sometime in September on 3A. But this meeting will be a joint meeting. Again, public obviously is welcome. That's why we're having it at the Senior Center for more availability for people to attend. And they will be sharing what they've been doing with the consultant and share with us what their thoughts are, and then they will go back, meet as a committee, vote on it, and then it will come to the Winthrop Town Council. So there's a motion by Vice President Belcher, there's a second by Councilor Aiello. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Tassinari?
I have to recuse myself from this vote as well, as MassDOT is mentioned in the 3A legislation. So I won't be participating in the 15th meeting or any discussion or votes regarding 3A or MBTA Communities Act.
Thank you so much for reaching out and getting that opinion at Council Swell.
Under the rules that once they make a decision, we only have 30 days?
We have, and I could be off, it could be 60 days, I'm not sure, but there is a time frame, and we'll double check with the council clerk, but once the planning board makes a recommendation, we do have a time frame that we're supposed to act under.
Because I would like to wait on 3A until after the.
And that will be something that the council decides on. I would like to vote on it.
We can't do that
but
because it's not in the rules, that we have to vote in 30 days.
we're gonna get clarification on that. I know that there is an acting period that you have to act on a planning board recommendation, and we will get that information to us. Yes, this is on the motion for the special meeting.
Yes, that's right. So with that being said, you're asking for an exception from the rules to be able to allow for a special meeting on the August 15th at 6 PM. If we don't have this information, I don't think it's necessarily smart to make a decision on this meeting. So for example, if we were to go ahead and choose to delay the 3A vote until we get more information from these other, law cases like Rockport and Milton, then if we were to allow for this meeting to happen on August 15th, that would force our hand to vote within 60 days.
Whatever that time period is, it would force our hand. Yep, that's why we're elected as town councilors, to make decisions. This has been going on since January. I don't think much information has changed. You do what you want to do, but yes, that's what I'm asking for. The planning board has met. They have done incredible work. They have met with the consultant, which we are paying, to give them an answer. They have come up with a decision that they're going to present to us. It's our obligation to take this seriously and to do the work that we were voted to do and to vote on a proposal. So yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
Mr. Council President, if I could, remember, the planning board's, if there is a clock, but I'm not 100% sure on that, it would be after the planning board sends you the recommendation, so it wouldn't impact this meeting on the 15th. The planning board still has to go back and have another meeting.
The planning board is not voting on the 15th.
Okay, okay.
And I said that prior.
I didn't know if they were making a recommendation that night or not.
No, this is
They
open
have
up
to
discussion,
meet
have more public
separately.
comment.
Would love to
If
get
I-
that clarification on the turnaround time, and I would like to be strategic about getting the information, the most information we can before making a decision, if we have to, if the people aren't making the decision for us. So, thank you.
All right, there's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
One no, the ayes have it. Trash pickup, Council Swope mentioned this earlier. I was driving on Washington, Winthrop Street and Washington Street and other streets within the town, and, we have a policy Board of Health put in place, which is a health concern about not picking up or not overflowing a barrel. But I saw barrels that were literally open 4 inches that were not being picked up. And, to me, common sense would say, okay, worst case scenario, you take the one bag out that's overflowing and you at least dump their trash, because it's not gonna be any better the following week. And I think, these are conversations we're gonna have to have, and I'm requesting to have with Capital now. I know our contract is up next year, but it's getting kinda out of control, I feel, personally.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it out of control. I mean, a lot of the times when you call me and others call me on these barrels, I'll get pictures that look like it's this perfect little barrel with 2 inches, but yet when I get the picture back from Capitol, what it actually looked like when they pulled up there, it's 2 or 3 bags on top and a lawn chair off to the side, so it's not, we're not getting accurate information
I personally drove
back.
up and down and saw a half a dozen barrels.
And
that
some of
were-
those might have been picked back up after the fact. Director Calla has some numbers I'd like him to just read how many times we haven't picked up.
I will definitely do the math for you, but I just wanna speak real quickly. I live this trash contract every day.
I'm sure you do.
It's my department that has, taxed with the enforcement and the, oversight of the curbside pickup. This trash ordinance went through a lot of review. I think it's a very clear and well-written ordinance. I don't know if you've ever written it. I've read it, but it's got specific language, and that specific language is a fully closed bin. And there's a lot of validity to the fully closed bin. If it's open 4 inches, it's open to rodents, it's open to birds, it's open to the wind. On a windy day, they flip open and it gets even worse. More importantly, our fee structure is also set based on estimated weight and volume of a closed container. That aside, I'm here to do whatever the town council or the town manager directs me to do, but there is validity to have that lid closed. Given discretion to the trash hauler is, it's a failed ordinance, because, they got no stake in the game. They don't, the tipping fees, the weight, extra weight, doesn't affect them, that's coming right back to the town. So if you say, if I give that, right now, my directive to them is to adhere to the ordinance, and it has to be a closed container. If they leave a container, our departmental policy is to take a picture, send it to us for review, and like the manager mentioned, we do often send them back or try to work with the homeowner and get that lid closed. That said, some quick math for you. So in calendar year '24, we're into it for about 30 weeks now. DPW has documented 147 violations for curbside pickup where bins were left behind. Sounds like a big number, maybe 147. Now when you consider that they pick up 5,900 bins weekly, so for 177,000 bins that they picked up in 30 weeks, they left behind 147. I think that's a kudos to the education and the adherence of compliance for the town. So I think we're doing a good job on this. I think if we say to the trash company, hey, you know what, tell your drivers if they see the lids open a little bit, let them go. You're gonna see those lids grow, because it's easy for them. It's less work. It's less work for me, frankly, if I tell them, yeah, just pick it up. And don't worry about taking a picture, just take it. It's gonna turn into a real disaster. And believe me, I drive around a lot. And on the windy days, if those lids are open a little bit, they flip open and away you go. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. And if you look at what we, in this calendar year, it's less than 1/100% of bins left behind for what they're picking up every day. And everything's well documented. So, but we'll do whatever you want.
And I think it's important to take a look at that and see if it's the same offenders, if that's the case, because I think we also went and passed amendments to this policy that offered homeowners a reduced rate to buy an additional barrel. I don't know if people understand
Some
that.
have taken, not as many as you think, not
And
many
I
at
don't
all.
know-
You have taken advantage, but it hasn't.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's that they choose not to, or that they don't know that it's an option, and that's on us to
We
get that
advertise it quite a
information
bit.
out more. Because I think that that's something that families would take advantage of if they did.
But the flip side of that is they have the ability to buy a bag and put it into a, like you asked about the smaller container, that you can still have a private container, put the orange bag that you buy, and if you can fit 2 kitchen bags in there, and that goes in the barrel. So they still have that option as well. Like
Because the
that's-
cost, we're paying for the weight. If they put 10 bags in and left one for next week that they couldn't fit in, we're still paying for this. It's not increasing our cost if they're picking up
It's
more trash.
increasing our cost if we don't enforce the overflow bags,
Right.
which is essentially what.
Well, the overflow bag, yes, but it's not increasing, I mean, we're paying for everything we're throwing out now. I mean, not in the old contract.
Yes,
we
but
were
It means
paying-
less revenue,
If they do
yeah.
it correctly, we get the revenue, that's the theory, right? We get the revenue for that
From the
overflow
pay-as-you
bag,
throw bags.
and it pays for the extra weight.
Counselor Swope.
I'll be quiet. Okay, the only thing I didn't know, okay, I thought you could just get the orange bags. The orange bags are not being sold in many places, because I've been to a couple hardware stores and they don't sell them. So
DPW
just-
sells them.
We have
Do
the
you- you
DPW,
have them?
yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
here
one-
at Town Hall as well.
Maybe could you reinforce that one
Sure.
more time on the town manager's website? And then the second thing is, I really did throw away 2 barrels, because I thought we could only use a town barrel. So now I know you have to put the orange bags in the barrel.
Yeah,
I got
every
it.
bag has to be in a
I
closed
mean,
container.
I
So
know.
even your personal barrel for overflow, the bag goes in it with the lid on top.
I now know.
Yeah.
I mean, Capital One is, Capital, yeah, services.
And we've, I've done shows with Wendy's on WCAT, they're available, I mean, we've done a lot of,
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's time to refresh it a little bit, but we've certainly
Yeah,
done
would
a
you
lot
mind?
of information on
Because
that,
that'll
so,
help.
yeah.
Mr. President,
Yes, Counselor Tessner.
thank you. I do want to commend the town manager and the website staff. They do have a really great trash recycle page. That's like, at least I checked it before I got here. It's right up front. It's the first thing you see on the website.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of questions from folks, and I like directed them to, like, right to that location. It contains almost,
No, I read
for
it.
me, it contains like all of the information you need to understand the policy about recycling, understand the policy about trash, and if we could add there, I don't, maybe I just didn't find it, so like, why we changed the ordinance and why we did the fee to begin with, I think would go a long way to answer a lot of the other questions we got, like, why are we paying this fee now? If we could add that to the FAQ, I think that would help.
We'll take a look at it, yep.
Thank you.
Well,
All right. Nothing like some good trash talk. Have one appointment to make, that the town council accept the appointment made by Town Council President Lettieri to appoint Alan Maruzzi to the Board of Assessors for a term to expire June 30th, 2027. A motion by Vice President Belcher, second by Councilor
Second, but may I
Swope.
ask you a question?
Any
Could
discussion
we
on
have
the
a
motion?
Yeah,
Yes.
could we have,
He's a reappointment, so we usually don't.
yeah, but, well, it's not a reappointment when I've been on, I'd just like to see his
Yeah,
resume.
we'll get you his resume.
Before
Denise?
in fact, in the next time, if we could have the resumes or someone to
Yeah,
say.
we've
because I've
never
been-
given resumes of reappointments
Well, I've,
in the past.
okay, even if they're new, we haven't.
Oh, we
well,
have always put new appointments, somebody who has not been on the board has
I
had to have a
haven't been there,
resume.
so I have no
and
idea
application.
who you put on before, and I have no idea who this person is, and I don't, this time I'm gonna vote for it because it's your recommendation, but I would like more information.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So you're requesting an application from every
Yeah, I'm
person
requesting
rather
whomever
than-
you recommend, that
Okay.
I just see, if it's in the files, fine, just send it to me, that'd be great, or send it to those.
Easy enough.
Who haven't seen it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, the ayes have it. Public comment. Yes. Carol.
Again, Carol Fichella, I live in Seal Harbor 3. I want to finish my comments, please, about the designated zones. I live in a designated zone. For the residents in those zones, we are going to be deprived of our equal rights under the law. We will be state-controlled. We're going to lose our local zoning protections and rights. This is unfair and discriminatory. This is not legal, and it's going to be challenged. What is the rush in moving forward with a vote before we know our status? That's the first point. The second point is our condo docs. I asked specifically at the last 2 planning board meetings, the superseding of the 3A over our condo docs. I got a speculative answer. I asked for a follow-up. If they are so sure that our condo docs will prevail and that they will not be superseded by 3A, put it in writing from the state so we know that we have that protection. They have failed to produce that document to us, and I know they won't because the law is clear. There are no exemptions under 3A for existing condos. Otherwise, it would be stated. We are losing these protections and it's unconstitutionally valid. Next point, citizens initiative petition that has been filed. It should be honored by this town council. There should be no vote moving forward. You should allow the residents of this town, this is a big decision and it's going to impact us significantly. To rush this vote, to push this forward is in violation of the democratic process. We should be allowed as a town to vote. The majority of citizens, I assume, from everything we've heard, is against this. What are you afraid of, knowing what the majority opinion is? Why should 9 people who are residents like us, who may not even be on this board in the next year or 2, make such an onus decision without giving us the right to have input on this? You should delay any vote, respect the democratic process, and let us vote on this. At that point, we will have the results of the Milton case, or at least we'll know what the case is in the Rockport case. They will be challenging the legalities. This is a bad, flawed, unconstitutional law. And for you to say yes to this is throwing everyone under the bus in this town. In general, we're going to be affected by this. And people in those zones, you are depriving us of our fair treatment under the law. Don't do this to us. We're your neighbors. We should be on the same side. You mentioned your duty as a council to make decisions. 9 people making a decision for 19,000 residents is too much power for you to be enforcing without giving us some considerable say on this matter. Do you have any doubts at all what the majority of residents want? Yes, there are a few that may want this law to pass, but it begs the question, who do they work for, and what is their personal and political gain if they want this to pass? Because we see no gain in this town, only disadvantages. And the little gain that we have might be the legitimacy of 4 grants. Unguaranteed, no funding, no promise that we're going to even get those grants. There are 350 communities in Massachusetts vying for the same limited dollars. What makes us think we're going to get those grants? You're compromising for 30 pieces of silver, and you're threatening all of us with a situation that wouldn't be good for any of us. So I please ask you not to vote, to let the process work, the democratic process work, and please be careful of what you're doing to your neighbors in this town and the rights you're violating.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you for your comments both times. And I'll just say, you're making it sound like we already voted a certain way. We haven't. So, and the citizens have every right, if this council is to vote, and if it's to vote in a way that you don't like, they have every right to go and put it on a ballot. So, but you're insinuating that we've already voted against whatever you want.
Jim, I'm in very
I'm just
danger of
saying, you
wanting
shouldn't
to move this
insinuate.
forward so quickly. You're making us jump through more and more hoops.
No, I'm not. I'm making you jump through less hoops,
No,
but
because
this
if
is
you
not a
don't honor the
conversation, though.
citizens- if
Any
you
other
don't honor the
comments?
citizens' petition, we then have to do more and more signatures to convince you that we have a right to vote.
Thank you. Mr. Vitagliano.
Thank you, Mr. President. John Toniano, Precinct 5, just a couple of past comments. I've had very good experience with the trash pickup in the town for many, many years, and continues to this day. The overall performance is really good, and it's a really positive thing. With respect though to Councilor Costigan's comments about the problematic traffic light at McGee's Corner, totally support your comments on that. I served for a while, for a number of years, as the City of Boston's transportation commissioner. And I was responsible in that role for 800 signalized intersections in the City of Boston. And I have to tell you, from the way you described it, that is a very, very dangerous situation that needs an immediate remedy. Based upon my experience, I would strongly recommend that the town do whatever it needs to do immediately to get on that case for public safety purposes. Based upon my experience with similar situations. If, for example, someone is injured, a pedestrian or whatever, and it leads to a lawsuit against the town, and one of the aspects of that lawsuit is based upon the failure of that pedestrian, system, and the town, knowing about it, did not act immediately to correct that deficiency, that could lead to a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the town that will make all the conversations you've had so far tonight in terms of the new fire station funding, the new school, the school funding and so forth, obvious. Or it would simply, delegate, it would just overcome it, because it's not gonna happen. So, look, I know that it's not gonna be, that it's gonna take it'll take a few dollars to remedy that situation, but it's obvious in an extreme public safety situation that needs to be remedied immediately. Strongly recommend that be done. And I commend Councilor Contigan for bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Dowd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jack, Precinct 1. These are gonna be bullet points because there's so many things to talk about here. As far as a seawall and a building, this structure that is sitting in the library, in the police station, and the firehouse down the street are considered 400-year buildings. That's the way they were designed. The new school that we just built is a 50-year building. So there's many different types of buildings that you can consider to keep. 140, that's one bullet point. 400-year buildings. 141 Pauline Street is the site of this classroom of the old middle school. Research tells me that it's 1.19 acres. The maps that we're using now, which are inappropriately used because there's no survey done on this piece of property. The only piece of property we have to survey is 141 Pauline Street to determine what we can sell it for. If it's 1.19 acres, you can put 10 structures on that acreage, 5 townhouse structures. So that, this should be zoned to put tax base on this property. Each 5,000 square foot lot or so, 10,000 square foot lot, could be potentially worth to sell that property $5 million to sell it. After that, we don't have to do any demo, we don't have to do any site work. Survey it, sell it, and then put it on a tax roll. It could either be 10 units, and like I talked about before, but Mr. Gill didn't like the idea. We could put 10 units there or 25 units there. You can take your pick. I don't care which one goes there, but it should be a tax base. The tax base would be about $1 million a year by the time it's built. That's permanent tax revenue for the town of Winthrop. That's what should be done with 141 Baldwin Street. Sell it appropriately, put the money in your pocket, and then 2 years later, you're gonna have $1 million tax base to pay for bills that obviously are gonna come up. That's another bullet point. What I try to do if I'm transferring, trying to get out of Winthrop, I take a right on Ocean View Street. That eliminates the whole traffic situation on Revere Street. So if you can think of that, or maybe we can put a sign detour on, from the middle of the town, down Ocean View, you get to this, the ocean, and you take a left, you go out of town. Maybe some signage would be appropriate to get the traffic away from Revere for the next 2 or 3 years. Some people are talking about the firehouse, on 141 Pauline Street. How do we pay for it? If you put it on the tax roll, we can refurbish this firehouse. Has anybody talked to any of the neighbors besides the firehouse about the conditions of the firehouse, or if they're willing to sell their property? I talked to both neighbors, and nobody's approached them. These are people who've been lifelong with the residents. Someone should approach them and ask them if in fact they would be willing to sell their property to the town for a much less amount of money that was proposed on Winthrop Street. And I got a positive results from both people. So I'd like somebody from the council to talk to these people, bring them here, and ask them if they'd be willing to, one's a business, well, there's 2 businesses there, and talk to these people. These are lifelong Winthrop residents. They haven't been approached. Oh, thanks.
Right, good.
One more point.
Sure.
Nope, covered them all. Thank you very much.
And I will just say, to get $1 million in tax revenue on the average house in Winthrop, you're gonna have to have 125 units. So the average house pays roughly $8,500 in taxes.
Well, so what's a lot worth?
I'm just saying houses, you said 12 units. No, I'm not, I'm just making a point of
You gonna clarify my
clarification.
comments now?
No, I'm just making a point of clarification, yes.
Yes, you just said that. You're gonna clarify my comments. You're not supposed to do that, Jim. You know that.
Mark Senate, Precinct 2. In regards to Mr. Tassinari's recusal on the issue, is that a recusal from voting on 3A as well, completely? It is. So my question to the council is, how does that affect the vote?
For a council to pass 3A potentially when it votes, will need, usually on zoning, it needs 2/3 votes to pass the zoning, which would be 6 votes, no matter how many people are here. So if there's 6 councilors here, everyone would have to vote yes. In this situation, the state changed the rules, and to pass 3A, you need 5 yes votes. So if there are 5 people here, 6 people here, 7 people here, it doesn't matter. It's not a majority of the councilors here. It's a majority of the councilors, of the 9 councilors. So you need 5 yes votes to pass.
I see. Okay, I just was.
And a recusal is for
not
all
a yes
intents,
or a
is
no?
it? Well, it's not a yes, and all you need is yeses.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very quickly, but kind of actually relates to the conversation that was just happening.
Name and precinct?
I want to echo what,
I'm sorry, I know you already did the first time, just name and precinct.
Oh, sorry, Mike Kinlan, Precinct 2. Echo what Shannon had said on the video call a couple hours back about long-term vision. Super important as we come to this override. And I think it's imperative to educate the public, not just about like the nuts and bolts of this particular override, but also to educate people about the levers that can be pulled to balance a budget, and what can be done in the future, and how we're gonna maintain in this town, cut costs, raise taxes on the existing population, grow the tax base, commercial and residential, or, beg the state for money, I guess would be like the 4th option, right? So, when we talk about growth, like you know, letting people know what that looks like. How many units are we adding per year as we go now? How much tax revenue is that adding now? How do we get to, you know, the $4 million, $4.9 million, I think it was, and, you know, that we're running in a deficit now, like, how do we get there in 10 years, 15 years, whatever it might be? I feel like growth is such a taboo conversation in this town, but it's happening anyways. It's gonna continue to happen. So how do we talk to people about it without, you know, just getting groans of disapproval and everybody yelling at each other and screaming at each other? Like, town's gonna grow one way or another, you know, at a snail's pace or very quickly or whatever it may be. I think it'd be, like I said, very imperative to get out front, you know, really get in front of these issues, and tell people what exactly, you know, things could look like in 5, 10, 15 years. That's it.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Annie Ferrara, Precinct 3. I just wanted to say thank you all for passing the proposed 2.5 override, to get it on the ballot, passing it unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Munson, for requesting the education piece. And now that it's passed, I'd like to introduce the Yes for Winthrop Kids Committee. As you all had mentioned, there would be a committee to get it passed. I am part of the committee. Caitlin Burrows is our chair. She's fabulous. We are meeting. We are talking about how we can educate the public on what this is. There was a fabulous piece in the transcript last week, so if you get it tomorrow, you'll still have last week's. But if you are interested in learning more, please follow our Facebook page, Yes for Winthrop's Kids. We are working on a website. We are looking for volunteers. We are very excited. I know sitting here tonight, Winthrop's concerned about a lot of things, right? So I think coming together for the kids could be a great way to bring our town together. So stay tuned for our Facebook page, stay tuned for our website. We will be having a kickoff event, and we will be having neighborhood meetings and coffee hours, and all of those things to really educate what your tax dollars will be going for, and how important it is for our kids and our educators in our town. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt.
Bill Schmidt, Precinct 5. I just want to follow up on one degree on what she was talking about. We do have some important issues facing, particularly right now. Obviously, the school override, the firehouse, and 3A. And I would caution on trying to do all these things at once, because the public can only grasp so much. So particularly, I would say, need to focus on the school override for November. I would suggest that whatever the process be in terms of even communicating with the planning board, that you try to hold off till after you find out the court decisions and make a vote later in the year. And I would suggest also on the firehouse, talking about an override in the spring. When I understand, I think one of the schools comes off the debt override next year?
The two school, the Fort Bank School was paid for 3 years ago, and the ATC came off this year.
Okay.
The next thing coming off the tax rolls would be Miller Field, which, crazy enough, costs more than the ATC school. That comes off in 31, and then the middle senior high school after.
Thank you. My concern is if you put everything all at once on one ballot to some degree, people are gonna say no to everything. Because people are looking at cost and impact and everything else. So I think it's much more effective if you think about trying to focus all your attention one at a time on these issues. And therefore you can devote your attention to that, because we have a presidential election, we're gonna have 5 state ballot questions, there's all kinds of things going on. People can only absorb so much. And so I know you folks on the council, other people here understand all the intricacies of the issues, but your average person in the town doesn't. And so one thing at a time is oftentimes a better way to communicate. Keep it simple, and focus on one thing at a time. I think you have better success. I personally am in favor of override of the schools. I'm in favor of a new, fire station, but I think if you try to put them all at once, you run the danger of losing on all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen Capuccio, 49 Waldemar Ave. To dovetail a little bit on what Mr. Schmidt just said, I am as well absolutely for a new fire station. And I'm absolutely for the override, not just because I have kids, but because I just am. I think, as we all know, most people really look to the school system when they're looking to move somewhere, whether it's to buy, whether it's to rent. It's just so important. I absolutely feel the appetite in the town. It's gonna be, I think, incredibly detrimental, and I think that we could very well lose on both if they're both on the November ballot. You know, as we all know, inflation is through the roof, people are struggling. There are so many important decisions, you know, that need to be made in this town. You know, I personally, and maybe I know some other people, you know, and I mean this not disrespectfully, but let's just be honest, or not honest, but yes, honest. I might be able to afford the debt exclusion for the firehouse, and I might be able to afford the override for the school system. I might be one of, not, so maybe something like in my situation or something, yeah, my husband works hard, we work hard, we might be able to afford that. A lot of people can't. A lot of people can't afford their groceries, they can't afford their prescriptions. You know, people are really struggling. I really think putting both of these on the November ballot is potentially a disaster. I really feel that, both will I think the firehouse will definitely lose, which breaks my heart because our firefighters are in such deplorable conditions. We have amazing chiefs and lieutenants and these men and women that are fighting for us and literally putting their lives on the line for us. So this is zero deference to them. They deserve this, they earned this. You know, again, legally speaking, I so fear one of them getting sick because we don't have the proper hazmat areas for them to decontaminate and yada yada. You know, we're putting ourselves also in a liability situation. I really feel putting both of these on the ballot, we could very well lose both. So I think that that's something the council really needs to think about. And even too, you know, I think when President Lettieri was talking about with regard to the firehouse location, sending out a survey of some sort, that might be a great survey to put out, again, in my opinion, is the appetite for the town putting both of those things on the ballot. Again, I've spoken, and I've said this in another council meeting, I spoke to some people that I thought would be like, absolutely, for this, you know, the override. And some people were like, no, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, our kids need this, we need this, the community, as my sister Shannon Kulo said, the community needs this, like, this is a big master plan, if you will. So I'm very concerned about putting them both on the ballot at the same time. But again, I'm absolutely for debt exclusion for the fire station, I'm absolutely for an override, but I'm very, very concerned about putting them on the ballot at the same time. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
And Carl, Precinct 6, I agree with you, what you said, like, it's, I think that, you know, I'm just thinking, what you're saying, just what I'm thinking in my head is that, you know, if you put it on the November ballot, there's a chance because there's more people voting on the November ballot than just its own election, you might get more people, or it could be, or the counterfactual could be true, if you have it as its own election, or one of them is an election, not as many people might vote, and thus it loses because not enough people are excited about it. So that's the other side of it. I wouldn't necessarily risk putting both in the November ballot. I would, you know, pick the one that's probably sooner. I think that the school one seems to be probably the right one to put on there. If we're not gonna put both, put the school one on there. That's just my thoughts. And then about the intersection as well, I did the exact same thing that Councilor Koski did. When I first encountered that, I went, let's see if they work, and I went through all of them and same thing. It was like, oh, I guess these just don't work. It does need to be repaired. I agree immediately. But just saying the entire intersection needs to be dug out. My thought would be if it is actually a complete safety hazard, you know, you don't necessarily, like, you could go even further than having a crossing guard and then you have detail, but then details can't be built. So just something needs to happen. So like there is not, like, if we're going to try to avoid some sort of heavy litigation, there needs to be some sort of response. Even if it's just small, there needs to be some sort of response to avoid the town having some massive litigation against it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody on Zoom? Yes.
Shannon Poulos?
Hey, quickly, I don't reiterate all of the strategic plan points that have been made previously. I appreciate people on the town council for reiterating the point. I'm going to pivot to like what I heard, which was some people on the council sort of pushing it back to individual campaigns. That's not going to work. We cannot do it at out there to come up with the strategic plan and lay out that vision, it's not gonna work. So I personally would love an explicit acknowledgement from our town council president and our, saying, we acknowledge that as a town council, it is our job to lay out the vision and not put it on the townspeople and individual campaigns. Appreciate everyone who's missing their kids' bedtimes tonight. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Diana Vans? Diana, can you hear us? She's unmuted, but she's not talking.
We'll come back if she needs it. Yes, one more comment?
Just, Carl, that's pretty sick. Just, one thought is, I know that certain different towns in Massachusetts do 5-year plans. Maybe one idea for that would be dedicate like the first 1 or 2 town council meetings of the year. Just have that sort of visioning for the year and for the next 5 years, and then every year, the first 2 meetings, you be like, okay, what's the extended a year, and like, what are we at 5 years, what are we at 10 years, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Is she available? Diana available?
Caitlin Burrows?
Heather, just one question, and I understand you might not have the answer now, but it'd be great if we could get some clarity on this. As the Yes for Winthrop Kids committee has been talking about this, we understand that there are some citizens who would be excluded from having their taxes raised under the override. For instance, we understand that that seniors who are eligible for the circuit breaker tax rate wouldn't have their taxes raised under the override. So if you know, it would be great to get an answer. If not, it would be great if the town council could look into this and get that information to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. We'll look into that. Is Diana available?
Nope, just went off.
She's on mute.
Diana, can you hear us? That's still on mute.
All right. Public relations, we have again the Winthrop Farmers Market dates, again through October. This Sunday they are on. They have been fantastic, well represented. They're doing a really great job. I encourage people to attend. And then on August 24th, there'll be the Accessibility Adventure Fun Day at Deer Island. I encourage people to get more information on that. It's on the website. And we will have another meeting before then to pump that up a little bit more. Do I see a motion to adjourn? Motion by Vice President Belcher, second by Councilor everybody. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.